Warning: this stream is for entertainment purposes. The opinions expressed by the participants might be exaggerated for comedic effect. Harsh language can be used. Thought-provoking or controversial topics may be discussed.
Hello guys, welcome to Terror of Your Skin. I'm sorry for the delay. We had a bit of a miscommunication with the people I was supposed to do the stream with. They should join in shortly, or jump in when as the train goes, right? But a second come in and do a little chit chat with the chat. Chit chat with the chat. Hello Nicholas, and hello squat bench deadlift. I strongly doubt this show is for entertainment purposes. Well, it's certainly not educative, right? Just like what else you use it for. We have to have this disclaimer because like people take it way too seriously, right? Sometimes we just come in here and we say like crazy stuff. So tonight we're gonna talk about fudging dice. I hope you're all doing well, and this is probably gonna be the last stream before Christmas. So I'm gonna take the time as well to wish you all Merry Christmas. I'm probably gonna do it again at the end of the stream. But in case I forget, or in case you don't stick to the end, Merry Christmas. So yeah, I want to do this video reply to this guy. I've never seen anything from that guy. I don't know nothing about him. It's the only video I got. He goes by the name of Mystic Arts DM, and it's about fudging dice. And sorry, I got a cat director. He's moving the camera around. That's not what I want. That's what I want. Make it nice and a little smaller. Hey, hello, Phil. Oh, Phil on the boat. Do those questions often in games with someone tear off their skin. Well, that's where the real fun comments. So this guy, right? Title of the video is "You are allowed to fudge dice." Oh, look at that. My air trumpet has been struck by lightning. Saying Merry Christmas to Mr. Max in chat with the Austrian $2. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mercurius. So you're allowed. Yes, you're allowed to fudge dice. Should I start the video? Or should I wait for Crispy? Should be here like in a few minutes. Tyler should jump in when the train is rolling. And if somebody else wants to join, right? I got room. I know Phil is on the boat, so it's probably not going to be possible. Is it? Well, the usual suspect. You know who you are. Let me press play so I can have something to talk about. Tell me if you can hear.
Bad DM, or so the internet tells me. But if you fudge the dice rolls, you're a bad DM, or so the internet tells me. But my players love my games. Not that I fudge the dice, of course. I've never done that. I always let the dice fall where they may. Things are more interesting that way. But if you want to fudge the dice, then you can. I won't stop you. Just don't admit you're doing it, or your players might feel like nothing they do matters. So, when they ask, admit nothing. That's why I never fudge the dice.
All right. He's doing the cutie thing there, right? I never heard this guy either. But he got like almost 20,000 subscribers. Oh, there you go. Crispy, how you doing? Let me put that
great.
down.
Late.
I appreciate you. No, it's like it's me. Like we agreed on 10:30 CST, but in my mind I just thought like EST because that's where I'm at, and that's the only thing that matters.
Of course it is.
It's the only time zone that matters.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, you're fucking got people throwing money at you. Holy smokes. Don't let me cramp your style. Let's go. Show us those ankles. Here we go.
Yeah. So have you been, Crispy? Merry Christmas.
Been good. Been good. Good.
Getting into the season, right?
Getting into the season. That's right.
So you have the important question here. Did you lose weight?
I have lost a little bit of weight. Thanks for noticing, Nicholas.
There you go.
I have a little bit.
There you go. That's what the people want to know.
That's right. They're concerned about my waist size. No, I'm doing good.
Well,
I'm doing good.
We were all a bit concerned. We started talking about it in the back.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know. What's
gonna
his
do
macros at? What is he doing? I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you think about fudging dice on your first impression, right?
Well, this particular video or just the topic in general?
Topic in general. Let's talk about fudging dice. Let's
Yeah.
let's lay the base, the groundwork before we
Sure.
go into the tearing section.
Okay, I hate it. I hate the concept of it. To me, it's a betrayal of trust, and our style of gaming really is highly dependent on trust. You're betraying the trust. You are saying that you will suspend the rules that we all agreed upon because you want a certain outcome. Well, you don't get that. That's not you. Why? Well, we'll get into it when we watch this video. But
Yeah.
just, I have moved away from using a DM screen at all.
Yeah.
I roll. Everything is seen. Everything is seen. Oh, but what about this? The player's not supposed to know what you roll. Hey, I play with adults, and we don't allow cheating. So it's not an issue. It's just not a factor.
And
All my
they're
rolls
supposed to be in character, right? So they're supposed to, like, they even if they know what the role is,
yeah.
they
They're in
saw you roll
character.
a high number and they can figure out what, but they're in character. The character doesn't
They're in
know
character,
that, right?
and they're not allowed to break character. So
Yeah.
it's not a factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate it. I mentioned this to my wife, and she's like, "Well, what are you going to be talking about with Max?" And I'm like, "Well, there's this video, this guy that says you should fudge the dice rolls. You should." Oh, and he tries to couch it a little bit. He says, "Oh, 99% of the time you don't," but we'll get into it. But and she said, "What?" She couldn't believe it. She's like, "But I thought you guys all agreed on the rules, and that's just stupid." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." And she's not even a gamer, and she's like, "Well, that's just stupid. You're just breaking the rules."
Yeah, and you see what it's doing there, right? Just like in the little intro, right? Just, people in the internet say I'm bad, like you're a bad person, you're a bad DM if you do it. I say, yeah, well, I guess in that case I'm people. It's rare that I get in that category.
I'm saying it too. You're bad. Yes, and just because it's said on the internet doesn't make it any less true. What you're doing is bad. Oh, but I do it in service of the story, and I do it in service of.
We'll get to that. We'll get
to that. You're
but
still
you see,
wrong.
He's doing this little coy thing, like, oh, you shouldn't do it. But
yeah,
my players like my game. He's doing
little coquettish.
the meme, right?
You're absolutely right, Max. He's being like this little coquettish, like, oh, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I never do this, and I'm like, you know what? I couldn't trust you. I wouldn't be able to trust you.
But you know that because that's the thing, like, but if you do it, never admit to it, right? It's like, now you're playing like a double game, like it's like double fucking betraying of trust.
Exactly. Right? So it's okay to lie to your players. Just never admit that you're lying. Like, what?
Like, it'd be one thing if you say, like, well, sometimes I fudge the dice. I'll tell my player, like, you know what? That's here what we're doing. We're playing like this. I'm telling you a story, basically. So sometimes I'm gonna fudge the dice for the thing to go the way I decided. Like, it would be one thing. It'd be bad. I don't know what a player would sign up for that.
Yeah.
But at least it'd be honest, right?
At least you've established that as a this is the precedent.
No, I roll for real, but hopefully, like a Squad Belgian Lift, if you say I fudge rarely, but I admit that it is because I'm lazy. Hopefully, we're gonna be able to change your mind and make you see why you shouldn't fudge.
Yep, we're gonna try to convert you over to the no fudge crowd.
Yeah, I ate this like a Mercurius for $5 Australian dollar. I ate all this wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more bullshit from streamer.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, like, yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, the whole like, yeah, I never do this.
Cute, right? Yeah,
ugh, man. Oh, I should get rid of my background. It's garish. Let me change that.
Garish.
Yeah, there we go.
Clash.
This is better. There we go.
Welcome to the void.
Welcome to the void. Embrace the void.
Yeah. All right, let's listen to this guy. Like, say, he's giving you the license to fudge the dice, right? He said you're allowed to. Like, that's fall on him, right? Like, it's just like, don't ask. It should be about your group and your player, right? The whole fucking thing, like, you're allowed to fudge dice. Like, who are you? You're not playing on my table.
No.
Why is it on you to allow me or not to fudge dice?
I just think that's a good point, Max, because I think it's hilarious because he starts off by saying the internet will tell you that I'm wrong. But dude, you're part of that internet. How come
Yeah.
you can't separate yourself from that? You're giving people advice too. Why can't I say, well, the internet will say that you should fudge dice, and the internet is wrong?
And
Like-
in a sense, I would say like, okay, yes, it's no crime, right? There's nobody's gonna come and arrest you if you fudge your dice, right? And there's no
But
like,
they should. Yeah.
but I say you shouldn't do it, right? Like I said, it's bad form to do it.
No, you
Like,
should be arrested. You absolutely
you
you
should
should be
be
kicked from the
arrested.
hobby. You should lose your home.
Should go to the guillotine.
Yes. Get out my guillotine.
Dice
Oh, my
fudger.
favorite lawn decoration. You're gonna
Yeah.
put that out there? Absolutely.
Yeah, to make a comeback. All right, let me press play a bit and listen to this
Sure.
gentleman
Let's
there.
listen to this.
Never. Welcome to Mystic Arts, where we manipulate our players to be emotionally dependent on shiny math rocks. My name is Dada, and I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for 10 years.
Like already, buddy. Already. Like talk about a like okay, so we're going to manipulate our players to be emotionally dependent on shiny math rocks. What is that called, Max? You're smarter than I. Isn't that called an argument ad reductium or something like that? It's a
Reduction ad absurdum.
It's an absurd reduction.
Yeah, reduction to the absurd.
It's a reduction to the absurd. It's a ridiculous simplification of the rules by saying, well, you're just manipulating your players because they're going to be all over this because of the shiny math rocks. I mean, already I can feel my hackles rising. Like, okay.
It's kind of ironic too, right? Like, I'm going to manipulate the player to get dependent to the shiny math rock. That don't mean anything, because when you start fudging, like,
exactly
you take the meaning away from them, right? Just
exactly. So here's these funny, aren't they pretty? Oh, these ones are pretty. This is a nice color.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It doesn't matter at the end, because if I really want this thing to happen in the game, I'm just going to, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Doesn't really matter what you rolled.
Yeah. So his name is
Anyway.
Daddy. Like, I'm sorry if it's his real name. I don't feel comfortable calling him name Daddy.
I'm not going to call you Daddy. Okay.
Yeah. I guess I'm going to call him Mystic Art.
We'll call you Mystic Arts DM. Yeah.
All right.
If you fudge your dice, the internet says, then you're removing agency and chance. You're effectively railroading. If you
Yes.
never fudge your dice, the internet says, you're running an impersonal game where the story is the victim to the whims of chance. Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Why this guy? Like, because otherwise what? You're going to just run through my story? I got a nice story time for you guys. And that might work when you're 11, okay? That doesn't work when you're dealing with, like, Max and I are old, right? Phil is even older. He may not be, but he looks older. This is ridiculous. Oh, man, this guy just gets me going. He's my daddy, I guess. There you go. You got me.
Because like what he said, like, it's true, right? If you fudge the dice, you're getting onto the railroad, because now you're deciding for the player and you're taking away the agency.
Exactly. You're taking away the randomness of the world to fit your whim. You are. Oh, sorry, Phil. I don't know. You are the definition of capricious. You are the one that are now deciding what the chance is going to be. How is that? Anyway, well, we'll see. He goes on and explains why he's right.
And like, I wouldn't say like you completely take away agency of the player, but you're taking a big chunk of it, and you take it when it matters, right? Like,
plus,
I leave you agency that you can choose if you're going to go. It's the quantum ogre again. Like, I leave you agency.
Well,
you're going to go left or right.
He uses a definition of agency that is, in my opinion, too narrow. Like, he'll get to it in the end, and we'll go through it, and I've got some thoughts, Max. I've got some thoughts about his definition of agency.
Yeah, because I like choosing if you're gonna wear plate mail or chain mail or use an axe or use a sword. That's not the agency that matters.
That's not.
Right?
That's just a skin. Who cares? Like that. I spent extra money so that I could have this. Now I have the shiny boots. Oh, come on.
And I think an impersonal game that is the victim of chance, of randomness. I don't know the exact word he said. I'm going back. I don't know what impersonal game mean, because like,
I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that makes it impersonal. And it's not just the victim of chance, like, but there's a reason why chance is there.
Yes.
And it's not impersonal in the sense that, the the player character are still the protagonists of the story. They're the one like driving the story forward, right? They're the one like
Yeah.
they're not
But
going
not
through
this
your
guy.
story. They're
He's a
laying the bridge.
professional director. No, he's
Yeah. Let's listen to him. Let's maybe he's gonna clarify and it's gonna all make sense.
maybe I don't want to straw man the guy.
Yeah.
Really, there's a middle road here somewhere. If you don't know, fudging dice is when a DM rolls a die in secret but tells the players a result that's different from what they rolled. Essentially, it's when a DM lies about the results of a die roll. There are a variety of reasons why someone would want to do this, which means this is kind of a complex topic. Have you ever thought about what a DM screen is for?
Oh, what's that? Fucking ad?
What is this?
Fucking ad? Skip.
Sure, it has useful information, maybe a couple of random encounter tables and that kind of thing, but those could just be pieces of paper in front of you. Why is the screen a screen? It's not just to hide your notes, that's for sure. The thing is, there's also historic.
What? Wait. So
Alright.
it's not just to hide the notes and other sensitive things that the players could see. That there. First of all, I don't use the screen, but not to defend the use of screens, because it's then not going to prevent a player from seeing something that they're not supposed to see. Fine. It doesn't give you license to lie. That's not. It's not there. It's not a screen so that you can lie about it. What? I don't understand this leap that. Well, it's a screen so that you can then just decide that it's going to. There's a long, then he's going to go into who it is that's going, like, where the. I hate this side of the video. It's just this. Well, historically, I couldn't care less. I could not care less. Yes, I understand that there is a genesis to the hobby, and I understand that these all things, they don't appear from out of the void without any kind of historical context. I just don't care, because I'm more concerned about the present. Unless, back in the day you didn't let players roll any dice. Still don't care. It's still, even if you don't let the players roll a single dice, I still don't think that gives you license to just decide
Back in
what
the
the
day,
outcome's going to be.
people used to do all kind of fucking stupid shit, right? Just
Yes.
like,
And they
especially
were
when you're
wrong back then. Like, just
Yeah,
because you did it first doesn't mean you were right.
and it's not even in role playing game, right? There's things that people would do when they started making movie, right? That they wouldn't do now because it'd be seen like
Exactly.
ridiculous or stupid. Like it's everything that is new art form and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people, like, things evolve at some point. Like RPG are not that old, so the first thing, like, there was like people were going like what's the word I'm looking for? They were going just like kind of like feeling around, right? Trying to
Mhm.
figure stuff out, and
Sure.
some of the idea they have didn't work, and then we ditched them.
Mhm.
And for me, the GM scream and tell you, like, if you want to use one, there's good reason for it. There's notes on them, some
Yes.
rules, right? Player's aid. For
Yep.
me, that's the one thing that they're good for.
They're good for that. Yep, absolutely. Quick
Even
reference
keeping your notes,
tables.
like,
Sure.
if you want to take notes, right? If you come up with notes pre-prepare,
Mhm.
already that's a bad sign. Oh, look at that! It was like some visit. Hello, Tyler.
Yeah, there's
Hey.
Tyler.
I'm just gonna finish my point and I'm gonna say UI properly. Like, if you come with notes already, like now already you're like maybe like leaning toward the railroad, right? You can have like some notes like for this the monster act they're probably gonna meet and stuff like that. I want to have the stat ready. If you're in the prep kind of side, that's fine. But if you have player that look at your notes that you need at GM screen, your player is gonna peek at your note. Get rid of those guys.
Yep. Awesome.
If you need to have like a fucking GM scream for player not to try to cheat looking at your note, well, at that point you're a fucking cheater group, right? It's like,
Yeah, what are you
maybe at
doing
that
then?
point you might as well like fucking fudge the dice.
Yes,
Because if the
yeah,
player gonna try
exactly.
to cheat by knowing what's in the next room before they open the door,
Yeah, come on.
and you cheat by rolling dice, like, man, what the fuck you doing with your times, guy?
Because I'm gonna win, Max. I gotta
Well,
win. I'm
and
gonna
you know
win
what's-
at D&D.
You know what's fascinating?
Bring it back so people can see you, Tyler.
Yeah.
What would
Hey
you
guys.
Hello.
You know what's fascinating? I've never once heard somebody playing video games go, "Oh yeah, lots of my friends, they like hacking and just, clicking the button and winning the game." And it's like, no, you fucking tell those guys to fucking quit. What are you doing? Like, I have never once heard, and I've played a lot more video games than I have tabletop RPGs in my day. I've never heard this same, even just to the pure gamist side of things. This, why cheat yourself of the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. And my ear trumpet here says, why bother rolling dice? Just make right. It says, it's what I've always said. I joked. I was like, I could do this whole stream in one sentence. If you're fudging dice, it says you probably shouldn't have had the roll in the first place.
Yeah. My ear trumpet says a lot of
Sure.
video gamer use axe, however, right? And that's true.
That's
And
true. However,
you're
they
in,
usually don't play with a bunch of their friends. They're usually playing alone.
Are they playing like competitively and they're trying to win and they're
Right,
putting
right.
their ego into winning, and if you do that you can have an issue, right?
Right.
I use, when I was a lad, we had like Soldier of Fortune, right? And you'd play this game with axe, but that was because like there was one of the first games that was very graphic gore and stuff like that, and it's just like fun to blow up people, right? It's like I don't have problems, right? but yeah, you play alone and then you play for a few minutes and then you get bored of it, right? Because like the challenge is gone, right?
And the problem when you're playing in a group comes that when you're the one guy who's fudging dice or using hacks or whatever, is it fun for anyone else? Even if they're on your team, even if it's a collaborative effort?
Yep.
No, because they sit there and do nothing. It's like, oh, that guy. Even when that's a separate issue, but it just made me think. It's like even when you have like a skill mismatch and there's somebody on your team that's just way better than everybody else, it becomes like
Yep.
you see this with GM PCs a lot of the time, where it's like, why are we even here? This guy's he's doing all the work. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that's, if you're a gym PC and you're fudging dice, can you imagine?
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
same people.
if you're a player at the guy's table, how would you know that he isn't?
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
That you've totally poisoned the well. That's a good point, Crispy. It's like now that I know you fudge dice, I'm gonna be thinking, well,
Oh, yeah. But-
any.
I mean, this guy couches it at first. He's like, I never do this. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I never, ever do this.
Right.
My players are watching me. I've never done this. Yeah.
Right. But here's the problem, my coworker almost never fucks up drinks, but guess what? The owners now only order certain drinks from me because I've never done it. So there's a big thing to be said about poisoning the well, right? It's
And it's always like also like he's gonna come to that later, right? Or you like maybe 99% are not fudge, right? It's the old like there's a lot of Smarties.
Yeah, I was thinking of
And one
that
of them
exact
poisonous,
thing. Yep.
right? It's like
Yeah.
how many are you gonna eat before?
Yeah.
How many are you going to eat?
Until you're like, oh, just one of them is poisonous.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I'll pass.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to get ready for the history lesson. This is painful.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Historical basis for all this. TTRPGs used to be entirely dictated by the DM. There were, in
Used
some
to be.
cases, no character sheets or dice goblins. The DMs did all the rolling for all the players based on the things they wanted to do. It was a radical notion once upon a time to even suggest that the players roll their own dice. It was the source of many heated arguments. Nevertheless, times have changed and we moved on to players rolling for their own actions. We all know how exciting it
What's
can be,
next?
waiting with bated breath as someone rolls their third death saving throw. Everyone
My third death saving
Good
throw.
and now we're off the fucking deep end of good lord. Please, here's again. If you want to fudge dice, it might be a sign you're using a dog shit system like that. But
Yeah, and it's like I just wanted to make a little snipe. Also, I'll need to step away for a second so you can talk among yourself. I'm just gonna make that point. Like, you say now like, oh, it was a big controversy that the player get to roll their own dice, right? And now we get the controversy when we say player get to roleplay their own character.
Yes, exactly.
right.
Exactly.
It's
That's
kind
such
of
a
like
good point, Max.
No, I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, oh, it's the transition from it's kind of like when you let I'm trying to think of a good comparison, but like you have kids in the family and there's something that like you want to pretend to let them do something, but it's kind of dangerous for them to do it, so you don't really like when you have the kids like, oh yeah, you can help cook, and they can like oh, they can't crack an egg, they'll leave a shell in it, or you can add this dash of vanilla extract or whatever. It's like, oh, see, look, that's the equivalent of these guys freaking out about who's rolling the dice. It's like, dude, you've still baked the entire cake. All you're letting letting your players do one thing, and you're freaking out about it. It's not a good sign.
Well, we'll see where he goes with this.
Right,
But my earlier rant about its history, but I don't really care, and it's not. It's just because there were things done in the past that we wouldn't do now anyway. Like it was bad practice, or the hobbies moved on, or whatever. It's just this idea that, well, it used to be that players wouldn't roll any dice, so the fact that they get to roll dice now is just kind of a privilege.
Well,
and if you used to roll all the dice, then that it gives you license to cheat a few times, for the benefit of the story. And boy, we're gonna have a lot to say about that when it gets there.
It used to be that people flavor their food with lead.
Yes, that's
right.
Yeah.
And like,
and eating rats would keep away the plague. Yeah, that's right. So
used to be that D&D said the paladin must use thee and thou for some reason, and Gygax used them incorrectly too, so it did like that. Oh my god, there's so much like history. Dude, history when we're talking 50 years is like,
yeah, it's not.
What are we even talking about here, man?
It's funny also, like those people, like, and I know this guy, like I said, right? But like going to like this super traditional thing, like like making an appeal to history and appeal to tradition, right? It's like, are you the one to care about that, right? Just like,
yes. I've been DMing now for 11 years. We're gonna get that 11 years,
right? And
dude, that's 20. What is that? 2013?
Something like
2013.
Yeah. Same, I guess. Right? I have as much, but I will readily tell you the first, 7 of that at least is total crap. Like 7 years of that is figuring out how not to do it. Right?
Like, how do you think it would react if we were proposed to bring back the strength modifier, the negative strength modifier for female character, right?
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
The whole other can of worms.
Couched in misogyny and But by the way, we're going to use that same history to justify.
We're going to use racist class again,
Yeah. All right, let's see where he goes.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to, because Upgrade Gamer is asking, like, so where would you guys prefer for an Ontario Con, the same weekend, Clericon, or Phantasm? I drive almost 2 hours past Peterborough to get to Glen Williams. I don't know. I don't do con, to be honest. So I wouldn't be the guy to ask. I know that Clericon is made by the Dungeon Minister. And he seemed to be the interaction I had with him, like, I'm sure he's a great guy, right? He's a minister too, right? And all the interaction I had with him was like very agreeable. So if I had to choose one, I know nothing about Phantasm. If I would choose one, I would go to Clericon just because I like Dungeon Minister. Sorry for the little like tangent there. I just want to interact with the chat a bit sometime.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Leans in, praying for that natural 20, so they could kick off the ground and get back into the action. But is the DM beholden to those same rules? During combat, you don't necessarily want to give away important enemy information like spell saves or attack bonuses, which means you might roll behind the screen. There are also times when you don't necessarily want the players to know what you're rolling, or what the rolls could mean, so you roll it in secret. Thus the dichotomy of showing your hand versus keeping your cards close. There's merits to letting the dice fall where they may. During those moments of tension, it's important that everyone at the table feels like actions have consequences.
What is even the connection? That seems like a total non sequitur to me. Like, maybe he'll explain, but hiding the dice sometimes because you don't know what we're rolling for, and cheating seem like 2 totally different things, right? Like, obviously I as a player am going to hide my hand in if we're playing blackjack, but if the dealer is cheating at blackjack, we're talking about 2 totally different things here, right?
Well, also you can hide your hand, right? But like not in blackjack, not the player, just the dealer.
Right,
but also like then they reveal and the card that are there are the card that are there.
Are the cards that are
right,
there?
yeah.
You can't
Doesn't
change
get-
the card.
Exactly.
He doesn't
yeah.
get to fudge.
Yeah.
He doesn't get to fudge the fucking card, right?
Right. Yeah.
But also, blackjack is a competitive game. It's
Right. Yeah.
It's you against the.
Even worse. The example gets worse and worse. Yes.
Yeah. Like
So I don't
know why you bring like how things change in combat or anything. Like if you
Yeah.
roll, there's like you don't have your player to. Oh, he doesn't have his player to roll to tie their shoes and shit like that. You should, like,
Right,
always
you know.
roll when it's important,
and
meaningful,
like
right?
I can get down with occasional the idea of occasionally you roll a die to like sometimes I'll be stuck somewhere and I'm like, okay, I need something to happen, and I'll roll a die and go, okay, that roll wasn't actually for something, but just rolling dice gets your players to go, oh yeah, time is moving, we better do something. And then I go, oh, that I was just rolling the die because I needed to jog my memory. I need you know.
Yeah, like that's a different. That's a different.
Yeah,
issue,
exactly.
right?
It's
That's
two different
Like,
things, right? Yeah.
Crispy, you thought?
Well, I'm just getting angrier the further we
Right,
get in this video.
I'm just confused, right? I'm deeply confused, and I'm gonna need a few more of these. Is how how it's going.
I'm gonna ask a question there, right? How much role play do you think there is in this guy game?
Oh, I would say almost none. And whatever role play there is, it's him. Right?
Yes, you took the words out of my mouth, Crispy.
And now the other question: so if he doesn't role play, is he just playing a game? But if he's fudging dice,
Then are you playing a
playing
game?
a game,
Yeah.
so he's not role playing and he's not playing a game. So we'll have to discuss later on what he's doing.
Frustrated novelization.
It's a professional director.
This powerful heater can heat
What?
up
Another
anywhere in
guy?
seconds without the
What the
high
heck?
electricity costs. Electricity
Okay,
supply.
Even if something bad.
YouTube has become unwatchable without an ad blocker.
Yep.
I don't know
you
why.
have
Like,
to.
I have to open in Chrome
Mm.
because only Chrome worked well with StreamYard.
I had to re-download my ad blocker, uBlock Origin, because I got a little pop-up when I opened Chrome which said, "Oh, we disabled this because it basically it violated like Google's terms and services." And I was like, but it's still up, so all I had to do is like check a box,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Hey, don't do that," because so I just re-enabled it.
People, if you're
Annoying.
watching at home, I'm streaming on YouTube.
Yep.
Please use an ad blocker.
Even if I get 1,000 subscribers, I'm not gonna monetize the channel with ads. It's so fucking annoying.
Honestly, you get like pennies, right? Just like
Right, exactly. It's like, you make all your money off sponsorships anyways if you're gonna do that route,
which
right?
are annoying too, but
Yeah.
all right, let
Hey,
me-
Shadow Legends, here we come.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
Bad happens to the players. And to be fair, let's acknowledge that we've all agreed to play a game that's essentially built on gambling. It's unlikely that you roll natural ones for an entire session, but it's mathematically possible. This is a
Not
game
based
of
on
chance,
gambling.
which means nothing.
Is it based on gambling? Are we accepting the fact that premise? I'm not prepared to accept that premise. Do you accept that premise that role playing games is gambling?
I'll go one better and I'll take it at face value and say, sure, let's say that. Therefore, again, why are we accepting that the dealer can cheat?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
true.
like, is it
Like, if
based
we
on
accept-
gambling?
You know,
Like, it's not the same as a slot machine, right?
right?
Slot
no.
machine. It's like
It's
that's
not
like
loot
controlled
boxes.
controlled by the it's not
Oh,
loot
God.
boxes, but like
Don't give
people
Watsy
say,
any
like-
ideas, Crispy.
people say like betting on horse is gambling, right?
Right.
But you can be good at it. Poker is gambling, but you can be
Mhm.
good at it, right?
And
Just
count
like there's still
cards,
skill
yeah.
involved. So like I don't know like what it means. Like usually gambling imply I guess like some stakes, some money.
Yeah,
Just
gambling.
because
that
there's
means that-
probability doesn't mean that it's gambling.
Mhm.
No,
Lots of
exactly. Like,
games
all-
play with probability, but it doesn't make it gambling.
No, because
Yeah.
there's not money involved. Yeah, the legal
Yeah.
definition of gambling is that money has to be changing hands.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I would
yeah.
assume as well. Like there should be
Right.
like some kind of stake, some kind of like
Mhm.
bet that is placed,
Right.
and I never saw anybody bet on D&D.
You're right.
What's the odds? What's the over under on this bugbear encounter? I don't know. If, everyone ante up before we roll initiative. Come on,
We
it's
should
not.
do
I
that
don't think
for
it's
a-
based on gambling. I'm going to be more radical than that. It's based
Yeah.
on
No, I
role
don't
playing.
think-
This thing called role
Yeah.
playing. Look it up.
If you want to go the historical route, it's based on wargaming, which is, armor class literally comes from
And-
naval war games, which is
And you're right,
absolutely
Tyler,
not
and I
gambling.
don't care.
Right, exactly. But
and there's also-
I don't care.
There's also like a thing
yeah.
that RNG is a
Right.
thing, right? Like you
Right,
can say
yeah.
it's based on a
Sure.
random number generation,
right, and I'm-
which you say, yeah,
Yep.
okay, yeah, that's a big part of the game, right? It's
I'm trying to address it in as good faith as possible
Yeah.
and still point out that even if we agree on that part, it's still a bad argument because, again, your opponent's going to get mad at you if you start fudging dice in a naval war game. Your opponent's going to get mad at you if you start
Yeah, it's
cheating and
cheating.
gambling. In fact, cheating and gambling can get you straight up
But-
killed. So, I just,
But I think-
like,
I
where are
think-
we going here?
I think the point though he's gonna make, and I'm gonna press play again now, is that it's based on gambling, but we should be moving away from that. I guess that's the point he's gonna make. So
Maybe,
let's play
maybe.
and
Let's
see
see.
if it's the point
Oh,
he's gonna
okay.
admit. Like I don't think it's based on gambling. I think that's
I just
but you
don't.
know,
I reject the premise. I think
Right.
that
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
premise
but
is
maybe
like-
we are doing like semantic too much.
Maybe.
Sure,
just,
sure.
maybe just mean like if you want to be very generous, maybe just say he just meant like it's based on randomness and
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah,
fair, Max. If he was
Right.
speaking contemporaneously,
Mm.
I would be inclined. But he's reading off a script.
That is true.
that's yeah,
That is true.
that is true.
And you've got a writer on right now, so I'm
And he's
that
just
asshole,
Cut. You watch this video and you realize just how many times it's been cut.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
Oh, let me play. Hopefully, we're not gonna have an ad this time.
Oh my
yeah, we'll get
God.
an ad. Watch.
Is guaranteed to anyone, but that's not
you bet.
anyone's fault. The dice did the bad thing, not you or me. And on that note,
Oh no
DMs,
Hold
feel
on,
free to
We gotta
remember
pause
that you don't-
immediately. No. Someone made a choice on
Yeah.
what dice to use, which is again exactly what I'm saying. It means your system is shit. If there is the possibility, and of course, yes, there will be he mentions the point of nat ones. It's a linear curve, and you've got a 5% chance to roll that nat 1 every single time, right? You could be the most skilled person in the world against, the level 1 goblin, and depending on what house rules, depending on the rules of the edition you're using, you got a 5% chance just to totally miss the guy, whatever you're trying to do, all right? Or totally, you could be, Magnus Mythbow, expert climber, and roll a 1 and he just slips off of an easy
Yep.
a simple wall climb,
Which
So-
can happen.
Sure,
Sometimes you get
yeah,
up on
yeah.
something like you succeed all the time.
right, but should it be
5% of the
5
time, I don't know. Yeah.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. So it's like you can't look at a book that has been designed and has hundreds of pages and decades of R&D put into it and go, oh, it was just the dice. No, somebody picked the dice and you chose to play that game. So
But it's also like it's like, oh, you didn't do a bad thing. Like like you said, Tyler, like you made a choice. Like if the
Right.
GM is just it's often the example I say, like if you say like, oh, I step off my house, and the GM say, oh, roll a d20.
yeah.
Oh, you
that
just got
too.
hit by a bus, right?
Yeah.
Then that would be stupid. But that's bad GMing, right?
Right, there's
Yeah.
like 3 layers of choices before you even get to rolling the dice, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like so you got to make a choice, and
Yep.
you're supposed to have an idea of like how good your character is at it. So like you're supposed to get kind of like an idea of the odd before you
Yeah.
decide to make the choice, right?
Yep.
But just like it's not just the die doing like the die sometimes don't roll in your favor. That's part of the fucking game.
Yep.
Have to roll dice. If there's a specific result you want to get, or it's not a situation that the players can realistically affect, consider just describing what happens. If you don't roll the dice,
Okay,
you're not lying. And if it's measured,
Okay, that I agree
That's-
with.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
good advice.
You
No
don't have to
problem
have
there.
a player roll the dice for every time.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like, and it depends also on the meaning. Like if I want like a character want to chug a beer in a tavern, right, in one shot, do you have to roll them for that? I'd say it depends. Depends on the context. Depends what's trying to
Right.
achieve. If
Right.
they have to leave, if they decide to leave, somewhat in a hurry but no emergency, and when the players say like, oh, I just take my tanker of beer, I join in one shot, slam it on the table, and leave through the door. All right, you don't need to roll for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the
If the
role?
guys if the guys say, I walk up to this guy, I grab the mug of beer in front of him, I look at him in the eyes and down in one shot, then maybe the role is meaningful because you're trying to intimidate the guy, you're trying to
Yeah.
Or feeling
then
like
if
a
you choke
drinking
on the beer, you
contest,
say-
or
right.
you know.
yeah, on a drinking contest or like
Yeah.
that. So it's a matter like is there some emergency? Is it something that is reasonable that you could fail? If you fail, could you just try again without any drawback? You know,
Right.
and at some point you're gonna get it, right?
Right.
You want to kick a door. Do you need to roll to kick like a fucking bedroom door in a modern house? Do you need like
Right.
do you need to roll somebody to
Right.
roll to kick that? No.
This is the beauty of Tyler drinking game. Pathfinder First Edition has the take 20 rule, which says if you answered, yes to all those questions, just tell your GM, and it's kind of sidestepping an issue, but it's kind of a good idea where it's like, if your player says, I just take 20 on that, then you as a GM should be going, oh, I shouldn't have had you roll in the first place, because there's no consequence, you have plenty of time to do it, yeah. And as Nick says, ask yourself what would be the consequence of failing before asking for a roll. Yeah, exactly, right?
Exactly. And so I would give him a point there. What do you think, Chris?
Right.
I agree. Yep, I agree.
So
I don't really like how he's using it though. Like, can we just say that? Like, yes, there are times like you both of you were saying where a dice roll isn't necessary. So why call for one? It's stupid.
Right.
There's no.
Right.
But what he's saying is, if you really want something to happen,
Want something, yeah, that
and that's
like that.
different.
Yeah.
I do take some umbrage with that because what he's then saying is, I want this to happen in the story.
Right.
But that's not the same as what your description of.
No,
I slam back the tankard of ale and slam it on the counter, right? Like that's
want stuff you get out of the way during your session 0. I want this to start in a tavern. I want this to start, X, Y, Z.
So I agree. I agree with that. Not everything needs a dice roll, but I still am not completely sure I'm 100% on board with the way he's using that.
Yeah, that's a good point you're making there because, like you said, like, when you the GM want something to happen, just make it happen. Like, don't have them roll, but it's also like when something just makes sense for it to happen, even if the GM don't want to, right? The player think of something that you didn't think of.
Yeah.
Is it thunk?
I didn't thunk it.
We thunk that Max. Now you're joining me down here in the South. Yeah. Now you're using real English.
So I don't know what it is. If you even if something like you as a GM didn't thought of, right? Just like you and the player do it, but it makes sense that it will happen. Well, you have to deal with it, right? That's the big point we're gonna come through in a moment because he really wants to tell a story.
But just before we leave this point, though, Max,
Yep.
if that's okay for him to do, can his players do that too?
Yes.
Because if his players can do that too, welcome to 4D land, my friend.
Yeah, baby.
But I would be very surprised if his players have that same kind of editorial license that he's referring to.
Yeah, that's true. That's part of the co-creation we do. We sometimes we're have the license to just say like, yeah, this thing we just make it happen because, I don't need to ask the GM to do something very mundane. Let me play.
Reasonable and fair. No one is going to complain about railroading. So if we all signed up for this game based on chance,
miserable, reasonable, and fair, right? I think those are good criteria for like when you don't need to ask for a roll. Like something, someone wanted to do something that's miserable, reasonable, and fair. It's trivial. Yeah, exactly. There's no consequence.
Mm-hmm.
But then nobody would complain about being on a railroad.
So he's saying that if you didn't call for a dice roll because it was reasonable, measured, and fair, then he's equating that to railroading, but people don't complain about that kind of railroading. I don't think that's railroading, buddy.
That's not railroading at all.
That's the difference between I walk to the door, GM doesn't ask you to roll anything, and well, I wouldn't have had you roll anything to walk to the door, so I'm just going to move your character to the door.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what happens, right? And I think we should stop calling it railroading because on a railroad, you can at least move around in the boxcars. I think that's something Shauner said. These guys will move.
Every car was its own sandbox. Yeah,
right. These guys don't even. It's full mind control, right? That's the. It's you're moving without the Jamiroquai song "Traveling Without Moving" is.
But the fact that he equate that's the what I wanted to stop again. The fact that he equate that to a railroad again, it's like maybe you don't understand what the railroad means, right? It's like if it's the player that made a choice, and his choice is meaning and consequence,
Mhm.
then you're escaping the railroad. That's all we
Right.
ask for.
That's right.
It's player
Well,
agency.
these guys complain that those players are trying to break the game, right? That's these guys would hate like QA testers
I like how
in a
you
video
say that,
game,
right? Oh, those guys are trying to break the game.
Mhm.
Are they trying to break the game? Or are they trying to play the game and that
Right.
breaks the story?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right. Oh no, you're gonna get to my big bad too early and interrupt the whatever.
Oh, he talks about big bads. It's
Oh,
great.
Good
It's
lord,
real something.
I've said my piece. I'll plug my own channel on that. If you want 2 rants about why I fucking hate big bads as a concept, come over to my channel. I've got them there for you.
Yep. You can see if I do that, you'll see the name Flame Zombie 1 at Flame Zombie 1 at Table Runner. You can see the name of everybody there under the nameplate. If I was a better host,
And Nicholas says, "Man, this video will
in
end up
chat.
being a 4-hour stream again, isn't it? Every line of grievance, dude. That's it. Look, what can we say? It wouldn't be.
Well, here, let's see how low we can go. I'm gonna bite my tongue. Let's see what he says.
Right.
Why fudge the dice? Why go against the essence of the game? Well, how about saving your players from unfair deaths? If you're about to start a grand adventure, you've laid a lot of groundwork for each of your players. You may not want to throw it all away because Gary the Goblin accidentally crit the wizard that dumped Kong like an
Oh my-
idiot. I know you're watching.
It's
but
fucking
they-
hard, Crispy. We can't do it. We can.
All right, go ahead,
It's fuck. God damn it.
I need to. It's just there's so many things wrong with this. Oh, you should have plot armor because we've put so much effort into this. What?
Motherfucker.
So if the guy dies in the first encounter, oh, that's just a terrible waste of everyone's time. No, it's on. It's awesome. And now make a new character. And why would you want to have a game where so and so can't ever be in real risk of peril because of the story that we've decided we're going to
Because
play?
you're going on a grand adventure. You had this plan ahead. You decided the destination already. You're gonna get there. We're not gonna meet the big bad. We're gonna get the big finale. We're just gonna spend some time in between.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything because I'm gonna
Right.
drive you there through that.
You guys,
right? It's like-
you
That's
guys
right.
get to decide what the horse's name is. That's what you guys get. That's what role playing is. Role playing is deciding what the horse's name is. It's deciding the color
it's-
of the spell you use
exactly.
to kill the guy.
I'm
that's
buying my rations. That's my role playing. This
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
struggling
like
with
the
the part, the
idea
Kevin
of
Winch.
unfair deaths. Unfair deaths? What do you mean
What's an
unfair
unfair
death?
well, that's layer number 2. Is again, you chose a shit system. If you know that like an unfair death can happen because the mechanics of your system are bad, why are you playing that system? Oh, stop. The reason I did not play tabletop RPGs for like 2 full years, evening Jim Cody, is because it was like pulling teeth getting somebody to go, okay, you have X, Y, and Z issue with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and they would go, yes. I'm like, okay, so play a system that does not have X, Y, and Z issue. No, I'm not going to do that. You dense motherfucker. Why are you doing this for hours of your life when every time I talk to you, you go, yeah, there's a lot of unfair deaths. The death save mechanic's kind of dumb. Yeah, you can roll a bunch of 1s and you get... It's the same consistent complaints. And I'm like, okay, there's a million games out there that solve this issue in one way or another. Are you going to play those games instead? No, I'm not. It's like...
But you learned this one already.
I know. I hate reading. I love just ramming my head into the same problems over and over.
Like
again.
unfair death, right? What is that? Is that like, oh, rocks fall, everybody die?
Right?
That
Is it
an unfair death. What-
is it
like,
more
GM
like-
fiat? You know.
Yeah, like some games are exceptionally deadly. So
Right.
you could be, it could just be a random encounter and someone dies in a random encounter. But
Right.
well, do you want to have a combat where there is a real risk involved, or do you want it just see how quickly you can kill all these guys and there's no real risk? I'd rather have the risk.
Right.
Imagine like having a combat, right? Like, and oh, that's just a random encounter. We know nobody's gonna die here
Right.
because that'd be an unfair death, right? According to GM. So we're just going to the motion. We're just like spending some time. It's grinding basically. We're gonna get some XP, maybe some loot, right? Just like, fuck's sake, man! Like,
Then your game is loot boxes. So that's all it
there
is.
you go. Good comparison, Crispy. That's right. I mean, That's just
I
my
don't want
thing.
that.
is
I
it-
want a game based on roleplay.
Yeah,
Like
to me-
I don't care about the loot box.
To me, that's exactly it. An unfair death falls into one of two categories. It's either GM fiat, which is,
Yep.
I mean, that's your fault. So I don't think that's what he's talking about. And then two is
No.
you picked a trash system. Why'd you stop
Yeah.
it?
Like what I say, like what I say,
Get
like
some help.
if the guy just say like, oh, I step off outside my door and say, oh, roll a d20, oh, you didn't roll it enough, a bus pass and squish you, right? That'd be like
Yeah.
unfair death.
Yeah, hey,
The,
can we-
the other issue I have with this is that it's somehow then equates that there'll be fair deaths, but
Besides.
now you're back to the capricious problem. So you decide what's fair versus unfair. Oh well, it's more meaningful when it happens. This there was more of a dramatic tension because of this. It's
something-
not supposed to be storytelling.
something
Nope.
something C.S. Lewis quote about the cupidity of the what is it the nanny is basically talking about the most dangerous person is the the person that wants your tax money to do best.
Do
for-
Oh
for
yeah, no,
everyone
it's
else.
I know the quote you're talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
Tyler. It's the one that the most dangerous tyrant is the one that thinks he's doing you a favor.
Right.
Because then
The
his
fa- that's-
conscience will never let him let up.
Right.
Like he would
Omnipotent
always be
busybodies. That's the word
Yeah.
he uses. That's yeah.
moral busybodies. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so unfair death,
Yeah.
right? Even in a fight, right? Like then you have to ask the question, like, was the fight in a way like telegraphed? Like, did the player have a choice to get in that fight or not? Did they have a way
Right.
to could they have a chance to,
That-
even if they get ambushed, right? Could they run away? Could they
Right.
Did they
Yes,
just
did they
stay
run
there?
away? Could they surrender? Could
Right.
they? Was there
Yeah.
other things they could have done? Sure.
Yeah.
And-
So as long as they had some choice, that it could have changed the
Mm.
then like it's not unfair, right? And
Right. And that's
sometimes you make some choice and it
Yeah.
doesn't turn out as you want
Mm.
because the roll don't turn out as you want. But it's
And-
part of the game.
And that's a
Yeah.
lot of the problem with the random encounters is that like did you just spawn these skeletons in 30 feet away from the guys and all of a sudden it's like well I can't really react to that in any meaningful way, so yeah, that might be unfair. That might be a reason to again not use
you're
your
in a
GM
fight.
fiat to spawn that in, right?
Well, but like, is combat an actual risk or is it just a cutscene? Is it
Yeah.
if it's just a cutscene where you're the one? It's like a what are those called? Quick time things where
Oh,
you have
yeah,
to hit the
QTE,
button
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's so it's just a cutscene then.
Quick
So
time
there's not
event.
really any risk. I
Right.
mean, again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like,
Oh,
oh,
I
and
don't like,
if-
I don't
and
like
if-
the
if you
idea of a
didn't press-
cutscene.
If you didn't
So-
press on the button for the quick time event
Yeah.
in time, then it's gonna loop again, and you get
Yeah,
to
and
press
you
it
just do it
again.
over
Like
again
it's gonna loop
until-
until you get to press it, right?
Right.
So, oh, you didn't kill the goblin before they kill
Right.
you. You're just
Yeah.
gonna go another round until
That's-
you kill them.
That's right, and then we just call those rounds, right?
That's
It's just a
actually
round.
something that I loved that Shauner said, which was on the fudging dice thing, which was, so can we reload saves?
Yeah.
If we die, can we just go back a few rounds and like pretend it didn't happen?
doing
What's
the
what's
saves
wrong with
to me.
that if we can fudge dice, right?
Yeah, Mark Curious, my ear trumpet has been struck by lightning. Say, I wonder for $5 you Australian. I wonder what this reaction would be to dying in character gen, like original Traveler.
Right.
But he was just fudge the dice.
We just fudge it. Yeah.
You were just
So
fudge the
no,
dice.
you're a 100-year-old, veteran of 50 wars, and you're
He
just
fudged
still
dice,
kicking.
and now he's
yeah.
a psionic. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to say what squat bench deadlift Aaron said earlier on the differences I have with you guys mainly boil down to me having bad players for true RP. No, me and Crispy at least can totally commiserate with that. And I wouldn't even necessarily say like bad players in most part, but that come from a lot of what is it? A lot of bad habits, that we have from doing old styles. So at our own tables, yeah, it happens,
patient.
right? Yeah, you got to
Like,
be patient.
you just have to be patient.
You got to change
and-
one thing at a time. You got to
One thing at a
ask
time.
what are you there for? Are you what's that player there for?
Yeah.
Are you just here because we're friends? Then let's
Just-
hang out. Yeah.
Just like one thing, like squat. If you can just focus on one thing at all, just try to get your players to stop asking you questions.
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Like if you could just change one thing, just change that.
It goes so far.
It is so incredibly
Right.
different once
Just,
they
yeah,
learn.
just tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
That's
just
all.
tell them, like, when they ask you a question, say like, just tell me like how in the world your character would get this information.
Or who are you asking?
and just play it in
just like
character. Like I had a great moment.
I'm asking my eyes. Well, then that's
Yeah.
not how you don't ask me. You just say what you're doing. You just say you're looking around. Then I'll start talking. Don't ask me questions.
I had a great moment a few months ago where one of my players, I think it was the one out of character question we had that, and it immediately fixed it, where the players had looked at this old observatory and saw that this like meteorite was going to fall on their town, and they were trying to keep it under wraps so people wouldn't panic. And one of them just offhand goes, "Can I see it? Does it look like it's getting closer?" And I just have like a farmer in the town walk by, like, "Is what getting closer?" And he panics for a second, and the whole rest of it's in character because now it's like, oh shit, yeah, that was So if you have stuff around, there's simple ways to fix it, and I find that most people get the picture, and you can salvage it very quickly if you just assume it was said in character, right?
Yep. So unfair death.
Good Lord.
Unfair deaths. We didn't get very far, did we? Okay, let's
God,
keep going.
No, it was.
We can do it.
Playing with fire.
The Wooble sent me some crochet kits to try out, and I've never used a kit like this before, so I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Perhaps that's not important to you if you run a grindy dungeon crawl, but my games are about giving the players a chance to influence the society of my world. I ran nearly
Okay.
40.
But why not?
You know what I'm posing there, right?
What? It's his world. You're just living in it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Like they get a chance to influence the society of my world,
Just
like,
a chance.
my world. But it's a chance, and as long as they influence it in the way that I choose, right?
Yeah.
It's
Otherwise, I'll
almost like
fudge the dice. Like,
exactly.
right. Isn't the point of like modern fantasy, being the fucking heroes that fix everything? Like I don't want a chance. I want to be the guy if I'm playing 5e or 3.5 onward. That's
I like the low power level thing, right? You're just a dude in that world, right?
yeah.
And then like if you want to make a
like that
place,
too,
you
right?
you got to make it yourself.
Right.
But-
well, I also don't. Again, the premise here is that if death is always on the table and is just around the corner and can be something that's unexpected and just a random encounter, then you're not capable of influencing the world around you.
Right.
What?
Like it's
Says what? So isn't there other ways you could influence the world other than just I kill the goblin before the goblin kills me?
my God.
It's also
And
like
we're God.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and we're getting into that's the throwaway example, and at least when I make that example, I try to mention that it's a throwaway example. But it's fucking like, why are you fighting the goblin? Does this did you just roll on a random encounter? Do you even know why the goblin's fighting? What happens when when one of your players stops and goes, "Where are all these fucking goblins coming from? Well, like, what? Why are they attacking us? What is going on?
They just
Like-
happen to fight a goblin because the goblins are there, right? And
Right.
that's also the point. Like when if you fudge a dice for your player not to die on unfair death, right?
Mm.
You're training them that they can fight anything, so
Yep.
they're never gonna think about like retreating, like trying to parlay,
You got plot
trying
armor.
trying to avoid, trying to sneak around. Like, oh, there's goblin. Okay, that's the next fight that we get, right? And I guess also if you fudge a dice and if you railroad your player, which oftentimes goes end in end, right? In a sense,
Mm.
it leads. If you fudge a dice, you're railroading basically.
Mhm.
But then the combat is going to become the only exciting part, because then maybe they feel like they have like their choice and what they do, the chance have some odds.
Right.
But then again, like if they cannot die, then maybe not.
It's exactly what I said, where, it's fucking, you get to pick what color of spell you use to kill the guy. That's about it, And it's,
Like if-
Skyrim and its consequences have been a disaster for role-playing, Do you want the
Like
blue
if I'm-
lightning or the purple lightning? Or,
If I'm just like sitting around waiting for you to tell me a story, right?
Hmm.
Maybe I'm gonna excite on the combat
Maybe.
part,
Maybe.
because now like you'll be able to shut up a bit, and I'll be able to say where I'll be able to move my little figurine on the map
Yeah, and do...
and
Oh.
describe how I strike with my sword.
I mean, guys at home, if you want a fun test, go to any actual play on YouTube and scroll through and look at when the players go from looking down at their phone to looking up and paying attention. And that's probably what Max said. It's usually combat. And part of that
Well-
is, again, your system only has rules for combat, really. So, of course,
I just don't. I don't. Again, he says things like, if you're running a gritty dungeon crawl where anyone can die in any moment, that's different from my games because I want to do these big, grand stories that where the players have a chance to influence the society itself. Are you then saying that in games where hit points are low and it's not 3 death saves and or any of that kind of stuff, that you cannot have games where grand things happen? You know, I think Alexander Macris is calling, and he's gonna have some umbrage with. He's gonna take umbrage with that. I don't think that you can just say because players or player characters are fragile in a system that they are therefore they're never going to have big impact on the
my
world.
Pathfinder game's gone on for over 5 years now, and I think my fiance alone has died 7 or 8 times, gone through like 5 characters or something
Oh,
like
she needs
that,
to get
and
better.
that's been great. It's so memorable, like right? It's hilarious. Like it's like everybody knows I don't play favorites because she has died more. Like holy crap, yeah, that's but you know.
Do you see what I'm
like,
saying though?
you know.
Like he's saying that
Right,
I
it's-
don't like that. I can't have these random deaths because then
Right,
they'll
it's-
never be able to do
yeah.
big things.
Why can't you
really?
just make a new character and keep going from that point on? That's what I do. That's what I did, you know, way before I ever found this. Like, this isn't a 4D, 3D thing. This is just a thing I've always done where it's like
Yep.
a character's death doesn't mean the world suddenly pauses and, you know, you don't get the Morrowind message of reload a previous save or persist in the doomed world that you've created. But that's even a better way to do it because it's like, at least the game is acknowledging things there. But you're playing an RPG, you're not playing a video game. So why not just go on and go, this guy that had this super important amulet is dead now, and now you have the amulet, or some other character has the amulet. Okay, what happens now? That's what's interesting. Why are you getting rid of what's interesting?
But you know, I made at some point I made a short video in this channel that say like role playing game or for gardener, not architect.
Yeah.
Referring to like those type of like writer, right? Just like
Right.
architect are the one that make the plot outline beforehand, and then they start writing and they hit their plot point, their beat, and then they know where the story is gonna go. Gardener, like they plant seed and they watch
Right.
thing grow, right? That's
That's a good point.
oftentimes what. And I say like RPG, like you should be like a gardener, like you plant the seed and then you watch where the game go. This guy is certainly an architect. He got his plot.
Yep.
You know, he's got a story plan. He doesn't know exactly like the little detail in between point A and point B, but he's know you're gonna go to point A from point A to point B and then point C, right?
I need to make a video that I've thought about for a while now, which is that a good role playing game is like a sparring match where you're not actually trying to kill the other guy, but you're trying to give him problems. You know, you're trying to puzzle things out. They're giving you problems, you give them problems back. You tease things out. You know, you can't say to the guy you're sparring with, even though it's usually your friend or a guy you've seen in class a bunch of times. Hey, you can't do that. Wait a minute. No, he's gonna hit you sometimes, and that's okay. That's part of the fun.
Yeah, you're not following a script.
Yeah,
All
right.
right, let me play because we're gonna go to the crux of it soon.
40
Lord,
solo
yep.
sessions for my players before we started playing as a group. That took 4 months. I'm probably not going to throw it all away because I rolled a 20. Probably. Not that I fudge dice. In a similar vein, fudging dice can be helpful in assuring that your big bad doesn't totally suck during the final fight of the campaign. No one at the table is going to enjoy an anti-climax that's been building for years, only to fall flat because of chance. I think the big
Why would you build the climax for years? Good fucking lord. Even with pre-written stuff that takes years to come out, do you know how disappointed people are when, that's just a fucking, even as a pre-written thing, that's a bad idea to do in my opinion, right? But good lord, wow, holy shit, like grade A for having so many wrong things to break down in 1 5-second period.
Yeah, it's hard to let the video go because like you say like one wrong thing after the other, like all those little details that he say, right? It's like, man, I cannot let that go. But
Yep.
I
just
have
reject the whole premise of this. Like
I have a 30-minute long video about why we should stop fucking doing
let
big
Crispy
ads.
talk a bit.
No, yeah. Sorry,
Well,
that's,
I just don't. I don't like this idea that the only way that you can have this big dramatic thing happen is if the combat goes X many rounds,
Yeah.
or that it's like, why does it have to be that way? Why do you have to have a 2-hour combat session or a 3-hour combat session, and that is going to be the pinnacle of the experience for the whole table?
Right.
Really? That's it? That was like, that to me is no more satisfying than, hey, we, through our good role play, the characters are able to solve the issue, and it's just done, and we go on to the next issue. Like,
Right.
oh, that's too anticlimactic. No, we had to have this big drawn out. We, at the end of our Rising Sands game, there's this big boss fight.
Yeah.
Was it that much longer than any other obstacle in the group? And then the question is, if it wasn't, because it wasn't, was it anticlimactic?
No.
I don't think
We
it
had
was.
that as
No.
well.
Is it?
But,
I'll make the same example. Sorry, Max. You know, is it anticlimactic when Conan interrupts the big bad's monologue and just goes, enough talk, and throws the dagger at the guard? No, it's cool because it subverted my
Yeah.
expectations for an 80s sword and sorcery film. That's
Sure,
cool.
it's-
Great.
Even
That's
like
right.
even in the good Conan movie, right? When he finally make it to Tulsa Doom, right?
Right.
And at the end, Tulsa Doom is the big bad.
Yeah.
He just chop his head off.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
done.
that's it.
Or
That- there
Loki
you go.
getting all eloquent with the Hulk, and then the Hulk just smashes him.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. It's great.
oh, that's
It's-
that's so anticlimactic. No, it was pretty awesome.
anticlimax is, and two, if you are going to write, anticlimax is a writing tool that you can use, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the
Exactly.
the whole premise is fucked.
That's why I reject the premise.
Right.
He's talking in terms of a novelization.
a bad
this isn't a
novelization
novel.
at that.
No,
It's
yeah,
not,
bad
we're not
one.
playing a novel.
Right.
Because for me, what that says when he says that, like, it goes back to the only time his player are excited is in the combat stuff, right?
Right.
The
Exactly.
player has no emotional investment in the story or in
No.
because they don't probably because they don't have control. Let's be
Mhm.
honest.
Right.
And because like the climax of the story, it should be like an emotional climax, not oh, there's more action, there's a bigger fight and stuff like that, right? That's not what it's about. It's about like this guy gave us trouble. Like it can be a fucking pushover once you come to in like
Sure.
Conan with Tulsa Doom, right? Yeah, Tulsa Doom is not gonna fight one-on-one Conan,
Right.
but he gave a lot of fucking trouble to that guy, right?
what you know?
The emotional satisfaction, like the emotional
Right.
climax is there, even though it's not the biggest fight of the movie.
Why is the bad guy never a pencil pusher behind a desk that's been throwing a bunch of? Why is the goon? Why are the goons never the biggest combat hurdle to get over? And it turns out the big bad, should you have one, is totally, he's just been writing the checks. He's just the guy with the money. And then once you get there, that's a trope that I hardly ever see in these tabletop games, which is like, if you're gonna write it, why not do
Nope.
break it up, man?
They do it like it's a fucking fireworks show, right?
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
now we're gonna grand finale, right?
Yes.
Everything is gonna blow up. It's gonna be a bunch of light going on and like a lot of noise and like
But right, and to that example, it's exactly like fucking video games got you beat 10-1 there. So why? you know?
exactly. And talking about video game, I'm a big fan of Dark Soul, right? The first one, the
Right.
first Dark Soul.
Oh,
When you go to win at the
perfect
end.
anticlimax. Yes.
Like the final boss of the game is a bit of a pushover.
Mm.
But you get there, and there was so much build up, and
Yeah.
when you get the reason why he's in that
It's
state, like
supposed to be right.
yeah, it's touching you. You fucking kicking his ass, but you feel
Right.
bad about it, right?
Right. And
It's like
oh my
and
god.
there's this thing there, but you have to kill him, right? It's
Right.
like
And Max, that shows me you paid attention to the game, because these fucking guys will go, "Why is the last boss so easy? You could just parry every one of his attacks." So it's like you didn't get it. You weren't paying attention if that's what you got from that. Like, combat is
you're
not,
invested.
it's not supposed to go up at a linear curve and just be, it gets hard. Oh, you're level 5 now. All the enemies are level 5. Oh, you're level, no,
Right.
sometimes
That's
it's
Skyrim again.
sometimes it's interesting for the level 15 character to just beat the shit out of a level 5 guy and go, oh, I don't know if you guys watch, or read Invincible, right? The scene, I thought you were stronger, right? As he's just covered in the blood, no spoilers, but he's just covered in the blood of this guy just splattered. And he's like, because they built it up and it's like, oh, That and that says something about the protagonist, you know.
Yep. Like yeah, that's those in a sense they're like storytelling use, and we're gonna talk a lot about the storytelling later. But like
Right.
those are like storytelling tools, right?
All right.
Yeah.
If you just want to do like a combat game, then you're missing out on a lot.
Right.
The role play.
Yeah. Try roleplay.
You see,
It's free.
try role play. It's free and it's gonna improve your game so much, right? Just have your player be in the mindset of your character,
Yeah.
see the world through the character, and play this guy because like there's a point he's gonna make that we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Good lord.
Big Bad should be as scary as the players have believed them to be this whole time. Don't let chance betray their expectations, because when they're disappointed, you can't reasonably use the
Can I
dice
just make
as an
a
excuse.
real quick point
Ultimately,
here? Not
Yes, of
not like
course.
scary has very little to do, in my opinion, with how easy it is to vanquish the foe. There's two different things there. There's
Right.
some foes that are hard to kill, sure. Does that immediately make them scary? No. There's other foes that are easy to kill, but they're terrifying. It's not. I don't think it's. I don't. Again, he equates two things, puts them side to side, and say, well, there's a relationship between the two. There can be, but they're not. They're not dependent on one another. They're independent of each other. You can have both, or you could have one and not the other. I just wanted to say that. I was like, well, if you
Right.
don't, then if he's too easy to kill, then he's not the big threat that they all thought him to be. No, he could still be the big threat.
Yep.
And yeah, and I would also say fantastic. Like what a fantastic thing you get to, so very old story at this point, Wizard of Oz. You get there and it turns out, what the hell? What is this? That's fine. That's
Yeah, and also to still like Tyler quote there, if the system is bad, also if the system is very chancy, that's also like that's maybe you should play another game, right? There's some game that
right.
if you want
right.
that, right?
That's
There's
true.
some games that are a little more flatline in the or a little more peaky, I guess, and it would be the better term in the bell curve distribution. So they're gonna give you a more predictable result if you're going for that.
Right. Right.
I believe fudging dice can be done in a tasteful way when it's done to guide the story to a more dramatic result. Fudging dice should be done intentionally, in service to the story that you and your players are telling together. I view it as a tool among many to shape the world in
Okay, we're there. Okay, we're there.
You're telling it
So
together,
wrong.
so can your players fudge the dice is again a question that becomes even more relevant. If it's a
Also,
story
like-
that you're telling together, right?
Before we dig deep into that, I just want to make it like fudging dice should be done intentionally, like what compared to just like misreading the dice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and the language he uses, it just makes me feel like, what are you, a wine sommelier? Yeah, like this isn't even frustrated. It's done intentionally and tastefully, like an expression of orange over your. What are we doing here, man? Like.
But yeah. So you say about the story that you and your player wants to tell, right?
Then
but you're not. Is he okay with his players then fudging the dice?
Exactly. That's
Because
exactly.
by that sentence, the way he's crafted that would imply that the players can also just decide that no, actually, I did succeed at that role because that would have been better for the story.
Right.
I'd be very surprised if that's what he's in fact doing. I would argue that it is much more probable that he is the one, because he started off by saying we have a DM screen for a reason.
Yeah.
So that we can fudge dice
He
in
never-
service of the story.
He never
It's
mentioned the
not,
player
You're
screen.
not
Yep.
playing. It's a role-playing game. The story is what has happened after. You can talk about it after, and that's what the story is. You don't start with the story.
Right. Meta plot maybe, but
like,
not
like-
the story of the game you're about to play.
Yeah, like you have a premise. You don't have
Right,
a story, right? Like
No.
that's what I often say, right? Just like but the way he talk, he almost feel like the story that you and your player want to tell. Like, did they go like do like session 0 and say, oh, we're gonna do this game and we're gonna play a bunch of nights and then we're gonna go through this and then it's gonna be this plot and then gonna okay now and then you lay out the whole story and then you go okay, let's play it and then you see how it goes, and like,
Yeah.
but you eat your beat and stuff like that. Like that'd be like fucking. You're in the wrong hobby. If you want to tell
That's
story
storyboarding.
with your friend, yeah, just write a story together.
Wait, you just
Yeah.
did storyboarding. It's not
Yeah.
right. And the ultimate issue that we'll get into with like literally all of these streams is words have meaning.
Yeah.
Role playing means a thing, right? And what they're doing fits almost or what he's suggesting, not what they're doing, probably, is almost 1-to-1 fitting the definition of storyboarding. It's like,
Yeah.
well, no, storyboarding is not role playing. They are two different things. So what, yeah. Yeah, Daryl, we're thanks for hanging in this long. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daryl.
Yeah, he's saying also if you fudge, roll, why even roll at all? Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
That's.
Mazarek said the reason
Yeah.
the player can see the DM's dice roll results because it will take away from the suspense and story of the dice roll. The DM roll the dice, look at them, and tell what happened. The screen isn't to cheat by
Right.
any means. Yeah,
You're right. That should
I
be the
agree.
purpose. Yeah. That should be the purpose.
yeah, but yeah, it's like the big crux of this thing for me. Like it's this point, and we talk about it through it because we all seen the video before, right?
Yeah.
It's not a fresh take. Like
No,
about this,
good
the
point, no.
story you want to tell. Like Crispy said, the story is what happened. You get the story after you played.
Yeah, because otherwise you're not really role playing. You're just trying to do things in service of the story. In fact, he actually says that in service of the story, we're going to fudge tastefully and judiciously and whatever. We're going to cheat so that it makes for a better story. Well, that's not role playing then, because you're no longer in that character. You're now outside of the character trying to decide what would be coolest for the story, not what's being faithful and accurate to the character you're trying to portray in the world, pretending it's real. You're not doing that. You're instead saying, well, we need this type of story beat right here.
Take care.
Hey, good night, squad. Yeah.
And like not only you're not role playing, if you're just trying to tell a story and you're gonna fudge a dice, I would even argue you're not even playing a game at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Like maybe you're gonna have like some game element in between, like the storytelling that don't really mean shit because you're not gonna have people die in a way that's not meaningful to the story, right? It's like so it's just like a thing like, oh, we're just gonna take a break while we're telling the story to roll some dice that have no impact on the story because I don't want it to have an impact because the story is prime, right? It's like it's fucking insane. Like why you do that with your time, right? It's like time is precious, folks. Use it judiciously. Like why do we roll dice in a role-playing game? Is to figure out what happened. Is for the uncertainty. If you come and you already know what's gonna happen, then don't roll dice. The dice are there to represent like the uncertainty.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
There's a combat. There's a dramatic situation. There's something, the emergency. There's chaos. There's stress. Right? We don't know what it's gonna resolve. Let's figure it out. Right? And then you make choice, and then you roll, and like maybe thing goes your way, maybe they don't. Right?
Maybe it doesn't.
And from there you get the story.
That's right.
You put the cards before the horse.
That's right. That's right. He's got it backwards. And to your question, off grid, it's maybe a personal preference, but I like to roll everything on the table. I roll everything. So that's just my preference. Others do different. It's fine, but I like to have everything out.
For me, to be honest, it doesn't make much difference at all.
Yeah,
I don't care.
You'll be I agree because you'll find out the results of such a die roll pretty much immediately anyways. So like for example, one thing I've changed is like I hide armor class until somebody hits the guy. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to reveal it. Because it just, then you get the, okay, I don't know how hard this guy is to hit. And you have like some of the suspense of like, maybe you find out this guy's super agile despite not looking like it, whatever. Then the first time you hit the guy, I don't need to, I don't want you doing you stop role playing and you start playing a 25 didn't hit him, but a 28 did, so it must be, and you're not role playing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just telling for the AC. I'm a big fan of just telling the AC.
Right.
Because my argument is like you would see what kind of you would see how the guy move, and you would see what kind of armor he wear, so you would have an idea anyway. If we're in that kind of game,
Sure.
and also like for like the little suspense that you lose, for me it's like it's so much worth it to just like speed up the thing that you can just tell me if you hit or miss, right?
Yeah,
Not
I
this
agree.
back and forth, like
Yeah.
But yeah, but ruling in front, ruling behind. Even if I roll in front, I don't assume that my player is gonna spend their time like staring at my dice and trying
No.
to figure out what happened, because they're supposed to be in character and seeing the world through the eyes of the player, right?
Yep.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, it makes like if I'm playing in person, I'm gonna roll openly just because I don't bother having a screen.
Right. And just and you can just don't tell your players what you were rolling for, right?
Yeah.
You can just roll and have like a one come up on the die and then shrug your shoulder, right? Like
And when we
if
play
you need to
online, sometimes I have my dice when I GM, sometimes I have my dice up there, sometimes I don't, and there's no real reason or rhyme or reason behind it. It's just like
Mhm.
sometimes maybe I didn't think about putting them, or maybe I have like other information I want to show the player that I don't want to have too much on the screen, right? So it doesn't matter. Let's see. What do you have? I think that was a big part of but let's give. Maybe he's gonna save himself.
Let's
in a
see.
way that is satisfying to everyone at the table. Most controversially, I rolled dice with no intention of honoring the dice roll.
Please let me join your guild.
It's insane.
I
the
want to be
number
a part
that.
of a team.
I know that's heresy, and if you stick around, you'll hear the flip side. But
You say like I rolled dice without any attention of it, without like knowing what the dice roll was for. That's not something that bothers me, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, I don't care.
That's fine. I just
Yeah.
said that I do that occasionally,
Yeah.
so
Sometimes it just give you like a chance to like you said, like juggle your like jog your memory a bit, or like
Mhm.
come up with an idea, like it give you like a fraction of a second, or
Sure.
it send this it gives the sense of the
hell?
player that there's gonna be like a hey Dory.
I know she never barks. I don't know what the hell she's barking at.
It's giving the sense of the player that some urgency, or you just throw a dice and it sucks, and you say, okay, maybe it's time I'm gonna bring some tension, or
Sure.
it's like you can use it in different way. That's in all this video. He's saying, oh, I know that's controversial and stuff like that. That's the least controversial.
That's
thing
the
he said.
least controversial. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't care about that at all.
No.
Sometimes also like something I want to say
Something
also about
else,
fudging dice. That sometime I'm gonna make a roll or ask for a roll, and the die is gonna come before I'm very decided on the difficulty level, right? And that will be almost close to fudging. Usually it's when it's like not super critical or some stuff like that. And because sometimes like if the player rolls very well, I'm just gonna say, all right, you succeed. If you roll very poorly, all right, you fail. It's like for the gray zone in between, then I say, yeah, you can, yeah, So that's close to fudging, but it's almost like saying like I almost decided that the difficulty is gonna be pretty low, but I'll see, right? Just like so, just like if it's not like I don't usually do that in very critical situation because I want to be fair. But when it's just something you want to try to do, and like you're gonna have another option if it doesn't succeed,
Sure.
it's not very We'll just see what happens. Give me a good roll, good enough roll, you'll do it. But
Yeah,
especially
what I'll
Yeah,
do in
totally.
those situations is I'll just do a quick opposed roll. Like so
Yeah.
the player rolls and I'll roll, and then high wins, and we'll go.
And I
from
like, yeah, that's why I really like, I think what could help a lot for the D20 guys who feel a need to fudge things is just have the partial successes, partial failures,
Yep.
just like it makes the game so much more interesting anyways, right? If you
Success
fail
at
at
the
if you fail at something by 5%, if you get 95% of the way there, if you think of it like that, I mean, maybe sometimes that's a failure, right? Maybe sometimes you needed to be 100%, but a lot of time, if you're 95% of the way there, then it's like good enough, but could have gone better, right?
Right.
You scramble up the cliffside, but you break off some of the handholds on the way. So now the guy at the base is going, well, what the hell am I gonna do? And now it's interesting. Now it's more than just, all right, you all climb up the thing. Great, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah, because there's this thing about like you know, at some point as a GM, you do have to make call, right? Like you decide, like, you know, like, oh, I want to jump over the chasm, right? Like, and I don't want you to do that. I could just say like, oh, that's gonna take you like a 30 on your 20-sided dice, right? And then like it's almost like, you know, I could also just say, you know,
Functionally
it's too
impossible.
far away. I can also say, you know, or the same thing on in the other direction, right?
Yeah.
I really want you to succeed, but I decided, oh, you're gonna need a 15, and then you roll at 14 and say, oh no, you didn't make. You know, it's like at some point, like just sometimes you have to make call, right? And
Right.
it goes back to like don't always ask for roll. And sometimes you just want to like you just want it's not a critical role, like a of critical importance. I mean, but you just want to see like how the character would perform, right?
Right. It's something I come close to liking about Matt Mercer, where he, in situations like that, he says, well, you can try. I wish he would just say, you don't have to ask me, but, you know, he says, like, you can for sure try to do that, which is sort of an indication to the player that that's a stupid idea. It's going to be a super high difficulty chance, but, you know.
Yeah. Your Dory. It's funny.
Oh my god, yeah, she's...
But I have, a handful of times over the last 10 years of running the game, rolled the dice because I had an outcome in mind that was maximally dramatic, and we all expected a dice roll to come up, but any result would have sucked for everyone, except that one I had in my mind. So I rolled, and then I said what I was going to say anyway. I've heard stories of the oldest veteran DMs, those grognards.
I cannot go over the fact that like he had the result in his mind, right? It was like
in that moment he stopped playing the game.
Yep.
And he just became 100% storyteller.
Yep.
Right? That's what he's saying. I'm 100% storyteller. I already knew what it was going to be for what, quote, maximal dramatic impact. And everything else would have sucked for everyone. Other than, how do you know that? How can you say that categorically, that every other outcome that could possibly have happened would have been suboptimal to the one that you had in your many-folded brain? And in that many-folded brain, you just can't leave it up to chance. You stopped playing the game at that point. It's no longer the game.
Imagine if you're a player, right? And they tell you like you learn that after the fact, like in watching this video, and say like, oh, like I picked the optimal option, like, and say like, oh, so all what I did, like, so we got the coolest outcome, but it's not an outcome that had any impact on.
No.
How cool it is then, right?
You robbed the players.
The fucking cool factor.
You robbed the players of a cool thing because it was scripted.
You know what's also pretty frustrating here, and why I think this is like, I don't know, maybe this is projection, maybe, you know, but it almost seems to me like he knows that this is not true by the fact that he seems to have a quite specific example in mind, but he doesn't tell us the specifics of it. That might just be a frustrating framing of this, and it's like, dude, okay, you have a great example of you doing this in an actual game, so what was it? What was the super amazing thing that couldn't have happened any other way, right? But I think he specifically words it this way so we can't pick it apart. So that we can't go, no, there's a million other ways this could have gone interesting. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He specifically chooses to be unspecific here. And that's...
He is Doctor Strange.
right, you know.
He went and looked at all the possibilities.
I looked at the million, three, whatever possible outcomes.
Yeah.
Hey, and at least
chose the one that...
And at least Marvel when Doctor Strange is written well, he can be my favorite, you know, superhero, because they point out that it's like, are you God? You know, you're not letting anybody else make even the wrong choices, you know? Because that's, oh man, what a great example. Because, I mean, when Doctor Strange is written well, it becomes like, let people make the bad choices is the moral of a lot of good Doctor Strange comics.
And how do you know if they're good choice or bad choices? Right?
Yeah.
If you're playing the game, and if you're role playing, right, and you're laying the brick on the road as you walk on it, right?
It's
the player character are laying the brick, not the GM even, right? Just like it's proactive player.
Right.
Yes.
And he said in the beginning, "Oh, my player enjoyed my game." Like, well, they just go there because something to do on Friday night.
Oh, it'd be like
Because they like being told a cool story about how
would be
cool their
like-
characters are.
Yeah, it would be like me going to another bar and going and like hopping behind the bar and not letting that bartender do. You're like, no, don't. You're gonna do it wrong. Only I know how to make this drink. No, you have your own fucking way of making the drink. The players have their own way of playing their character, of doing that moment. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let them do the thing. They'll serve me a great drink. I can serve them a great drink back. We have some.
And
back
also,
and forth.
sometimes thing goes wrong, right? And then those can be great moments. Like, oh, you can talk about this game. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
we got our ass kicked. But
Yeah.
can you imagine if we had succeeded? You're rubbing yourself in those
We were
moments as
so
well.
close. You had
Yeah.
this, but they don't have that, because what he described means that you don't really have a choice.
No.
He gives lip service to agency, and if we get there, he'll eventually give his definition date for what player agency is. It's, well, we'll see if we get there. I've got
We'll
lots
get
to
there.
say about that.
I'll play the next ad.
Nards from the 70s talking about rolling dice just for the noise it makes. That's not my recommendation, by the way, but that is something that happens and has happened since the dawn of our hobby. Though I think if you do that more than once per adventure, you've got a little bit of introspection to do. I tend to let the dice fall where they may about 99% of the time. And if I fudge, it's not premeditated, except maybe once in a blue moon. Premeditated sounds like I'm talking about murder. Maybe I am. It's a little
Yeah,
bit
you are.
sinister, isn't it? I can feel the comment section filling up already. Sorry, folks. This is just how I see it.
That's
fuck,
fine.
I
You
paused
can
an
say
ad.
it how you see it. That's fine. I'm
Should
all,
I skip that?
I'm all for
Yeah,
it.
skip the ad.
But fuck me if I can't laugh at you need to do some introspection.
I'd also like to point
comments
Yeah.
write themselves. The comments write themselves. I don't need to say anything on that.
And it's funny, like say, like, oh, I fudged like a couple and 99% let the dice fall what they are, right? That's that's the right instinct. Just fucking do that. And
Just
if I
do that
fudge,
then.
premeditated, right? Just like you have to learn, like in the game that we did, the Fear City game, right?
Mhm.
He's talking about like at some point you meet the bad guy, right? And he get his ass kicked, right? Because I would roll like shit, and you rolled hot, and I rolled like shit, and just something that happened, right?
Great. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's part of the game, and it just means that now I have to, if we want to continue playing, and we just want to finish the session there, right? It was still a bit early.
Mhm.
Then I introduce another twist.
Yes, exactly.
I brought the game somewhere else, right?
Yes.
Right. And second, if you're, these guys have no problem with breaking character all the time, and I would say a fine place to break character would be to go, oh shit, we're really, really in the, uncharted territory here, and I'm not, cut. Do you guys want to keep going here? Because this was kind of the end. Maybe your goal was to kill that big bad, and you achieved that in an hour in what you had planned as a 3-hour session. Totally fine to cut it short, right? It's totally fine to go, all right, that's the end of it. And then let's talk about the fallout of that. Maybe plan the next session if we want another one, whatever.
I also would just point out that I am extremely doubtful that someone that's going to admit to fudging dice 1% of the time actually stays at 1% of the time.
Right.
I would
Show us the receipts.
Exactly. I would suggest that if you're willing to ignore the game mechanic to get the optimal dramatic result, you're doing that probably multiple times a session, right? I would be very surprised if this is, I almost always leave it, but it's just these one few times where, no, that's a slippery slope. I would suspect that there's a lot of fudging going on.
Especially, see off good gaming that. Especially given that he doesn't use specific examples.
Yeah.
Right? That's another part of it. And,
Like for me, that this is like the when you talk about diet with people like that are obese or overweight and say, oh, what, honey, like I eat pretty well. I don't know why I'm so fat. I don't eat all something. Once in a while, I'm gonna take a little snack,
Right.
and then you start like tracking what they eat, and they snack every fucking hour, right?
Yes,
they get
exactly.
a little
They're eating
snack
every
every
hour.
hour, but they don't realize. But in their mind, it's just like, oh, once in a while, I'll take a little snack. It's like
that's
yeah,
why that's why I bite on the sorry to interrupt. That's why I bite on the 80, the 80-page comment chains, because I like to try to dig and get to the bottom of it. And usually they'll get frustrated before I do, because I've got a lot of patience. But I posted it the other day because I was like, so, do you have no problem? This was a separate issue. It was on Rolling Stag's video. I was like, so do you have zero problems that you want to, try to solve at your table? And finally they were like, yep, I have zero problems. And I was like, well, damn, then there we go. At least we know the conversation's over, right? Like at that point, what do I say?
Why did you even watch this video?
And I was like, what? You wrote, a 500-word essay, and you don't even have, like, if I was in your situation, I wouldn't even watch the video. I would have just been like living it up. I would have been planning my next game right away. Like,
people just want to tell. They I don't know. People like just want to have the bias confirmed. They just want to be told that they're a good boy.
Right.
Like I want to be challenged.
Right. Exactly. Right. Hey, Doc Flamingo.
Hey, Doc.
Long time no see.
Hey, Doc. Yeah. Well, saw you earlier today.
Oh, really? Cool.
Point out that how and where I roll depends entirely on the type of game I'm running. I run campaigns without a DM screen, which means everything is out in the open. I also run without ever showing my hand. I like to experiment, see what works well for each game and each style of play. I play a million different kinds of D&D. Sometimes I set those expectations at the start. When I ran a West Marches style game, I was pretty clear with my players. The goal was always to let the dice fall where they did. No DM screen, no safety net. Death is death. But that's not what I do normally. I definitely recommend experimenting with this. You may end up...
That's good. Okay. I like that he says to
I was able to give him
it's good
there.
advice.
Like I appreciate the experiment with this stuff. Mm-hmm. But what I would point out, like, you shouldn't set the expectation when the dice is gonna stay where fall where they what is it? The dice
fall where they may. Yeah.
Well, let they fall where they may. I almost got that right.
Yeah, you were close.
That should be like the default expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should set expectation when you say, I'm telling a story, I might fudge the dice in this one, right? That should be like the thing that you set the expectation. And then look at the player and say, well, no, man, just let's see what happened. They're going to tell you.
Right, like in what, just from the gamist sense, in what other game would you have to, preface things like, hey guys, in Monopoly, if you roll a 5 and a 6, it's gonna be an 11, by the way. It's like, yeah, what else would they, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah. But like I said, he's no, like when you fudge the dice, you're no longer the die in the game.
Right, exactly.
No.
Yep.
liking one method more than the other. I know I did. These days, my D&D setup involves a DM screen, so I usually roll behind it. But when there's a really dramatic roll coming up, or when we're in combat, I'll often stand up from my chair, walk around the DM screen, and roll a die in the middle of the table for all the players.
It's a drinking game for me because I feel like I've covered this. We probably all have covered this a million times. This gets into the DM as an entertainer. You're putting on your clown makeup. You're bringing the pizza. I made a comment the other day about a guy I'd never seen commenting, which was like, oh, so you're saying, more or less being a DM and, being an entertainer they're two separate things, and you can be entertaining while you are a GM, sure, but you're there to role play just like everybody else at the table, right? This is not role playing. Yep. This is game show host stuff.
You're there to play a game.
Right.
Like you're a player, right? Like you're a player. Like when a DM, you're a player as well. You're there to play a game.
Right. Yeah.
And part of the game, and it's like people say like, oh, it's a role playing game. There's a role play aspect of the game. They say no. Role playing is the game.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
And reacting to what dice does and making stuff up as you go is the fucking game.
Yep.
That's the game.
You know, that's the game.
Yep.
Those are the game elements.
Right.
Yep.
Dice are part of that also, right? But those are the game's element. Like the plastic bit that you see here, right?
Right.
Nice like little miniature. Those are not necessary. Those are not necessary.
They're not necessary, and we don't even have base-to-base contact. What the? This puts me wrong as a war gamer. It puts me wrong as a role player. This is bad.
I think that's just stage picture for the.
I know. It's just like,
Yeah. But yeah.
To see. I'm also very open about the mechanics, especially in these dramatic moments. Let's say a player is at 3 hit points and a goblin is about to shoot at her with a bow. Well, I might stand up, walk towards that player at the table and say, the goblin does 1d6 plus 2 damage. So you're guaranteed to go down if he hits. And then I'll ask for the AC. You have an AC of 15, the goblin has a plus 4 to hit, so if I get an 11 or higher, you'll go down.
Oh,
And then I
brother.
roll.
Here's what you stand to win, Bill. Come on down. The price is right.
Yeah.
Oh, so many ads.
So many ads. Like it's insane. Come on, YouTube.
There's
Two in a
another
row?
one.
Two in a row.
Is it because I muted?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
just gonna keep
probably.
ripping on
Oh yeah.
game show host.
Okay, so the issue I have with this example is that did you really need to take all that time to explain he has this much damage, which means if he hits you here, you're going to go unconscious? Is that really the optimal way to stay in character and role play? Why can't you role play in combat? What is with these people? You can role play in combat and have it be just as dramatic as, hey, if I roll 11, guess what? I get to knock off your little plastic figurine there. I'm going to lay him on its
Already-
side. You know what that means.
Sorry, don't eat that.
Already when they're
Oh,
in the
she's eating
when
it.
they're in the using the miniature, right? They're no longer in the eyes of the character. They're from
No.
third person up eye.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
There's that as well. There's that already. And you can tell there's no roleplay because that thing, like, it's like, is that your final answer, right? The like game show thing, right? Just like,
I hate
Final
it.
answer.
oh, if he hits
Oh,
you,
man.
you're sure to go down. What is your EC?
I'd like to
Oh.
phone a friend.
If
Yeah,
I
exactly.
roll 11 or higher, this is it.
Yeah.
Come on down. The price is
I'm
right.
gonna
Yeah.
shake my dice in your face and blow on it.
I just,
Oh, this dice roll is gonna, like, and you fucking arm it up and shit like that. That's not
Yeah.
roleplay. That's like,
no, it's not.
And then there's no even, because he's talking about fudging dice, there's not even a, oh, I died. You don't even get that part of the game show. You only get one side of the game show.
I assume that in that point he's gonna say that it's gonna roll this dice in front of the player.
Right,
Yeah, that's
I-
what he's
I
doing,
guess
right?
so,
Like
right,
he's saying if this shiny math rock,
Right.
if this comes up in 11, then you're done. You're
right,
dead.
so it's kind of like the rest of the game is like the first 5 super easy questions on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and then this is the one, the $100,000 question where they start actually counting, and you're kind of like, oh, so the first few they were just to pad out your TV, 22-minute run time, so
Build your confidence too.
yeah. That. But also, it reminds me of the Sam Hyde skit. I don't know if you watched it, but
Probably.
I can't read the full title of the skit, but he goes, if I pull this trigger, a little bullet's gonna come out and it's gonna kill you. It reminds me of this. It's like, yeah, I fucking know what a bow or a sword or what it does a d6. You reading that will probably make me think, oh, it fucking does a d6. Dude, this guy's weak as fuck. Why is me being stabbed do only, and then I'm not role playing anymore. I'm thinking about how dog shit the mechanics are. But if I'm thinking the guy's trying to stab me, and that's all you say, the goblin is swinging a sword at your head, that I do not need to know if it does 1 damage or if it does 100. I know I would prefer not to be stabbed in the head. Like that's.
And also, like, first you want to keep, like, hopefully you would want to keep the combat going, right? And if you're the players or in the skin of the characters, and if and if okay, that's funny.
Yeah, that's what I was
I thought
laughing at.
I go behind them. I put my hand on their shoulder.
Right. I lean
whisper
over.
in their
I whisper
ear.
into his ear. If I roll 11, if I roll an 11, you're going down.
Oh God! Is that
All
before
right, let's keep,
or after
let's keep
the
going.
end of the session?
I have to watch another ad. Let's get another ad in.
I want to say, like, if
Yeah.
the player, like, or if the player in the skin of the character, in the mindset of the character, right, and they're invested and stuff like that, you don't need, like, they almost
Don't need
dead.
that.
They
No,
know
that's-
exactly, like, the tension is there because they invested in the game. If you have to rely to those, like, tactics, right, of, like, arming it up to get the player on the edge of their seat, and everybody's like suddenly paying attention and squirming and say, "Oh, what's the dice gonna be? Oh, you're shaking and you're shaking. Oh, drop the dice so I can see." And I'm just like, it's sad, to be honest.
We're
is.
really painting a good
is.
picture here, aren't we? Jeez.
Oh man, that's sad.
Sort of thing, the players often lean in to see the role. They want to be in on the moment. They want to know if this
Literally what I
encounter
was
is about
saying.
to spiral out of control or not. Does fudging the dice remove player agency?
Yes.
It does. I'm choosing to point the game in a specific direction, a direction
Okay,
the players have
well.
not chosen.
Well, at
Not the
least-
game.
But I
The
thought.
story.
Wait a minute.
Not the
So-
game, the story. That's
So
right.
now he's saying that he's choosing to point the game in a direction the players didn't choose. But I thought this was a story that both the players and you were telling. So now you're admitting that it's not. It's just
Yeah.
a story.
Oh, yeah, we
you're
knew that
telling.
Yeah.
Well,
We
we
knew
knew
that
that,
all
but
along.
it's strange to hear it from the horse's
Well,
mouth. is what
they
I'm
showed up, right? So that's their choice.
saying. Right,
choice
there you
to show
go,
up.
right? You know.
Human dice
Stockholm
rollers, but the dice
syndrome,
rolls
yep.
don't matter.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, exactly. Human dice roll and the dice roll don't matter.
Yep.
Fuck me.
It's like whose line is it anyway, right? It's,
Yeah.
the points don't matter.
Yeah. Good lord.
Is removing player agency bad?
Yes.
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 One of the biggest draws of this game
Not
is that the
what I
players can
expected.
forge their own path. Together, as a party, they decide where to go, who to talk to, what creature they fight. They expect
Do they?
consequences for the choices they make. To be clear, I'm not telling you that you need to fudge the dice. You can do whatever you want in your own games. I'm not
Thanks.
your dad. I see you guys in the comments. That's not how you say my name. I'm not even saying that you should be fudging dice. In fact, I think it should be done as sparingly as possible. If fudging dice rolls doesn't align with how you run your game, then I encourage you to stay the course.
Well, thanks, Daddy.
Thank you.
He's encouraged me to stay the course.
That's,
I don't
you
fudge
know,
rolls.
Yeah, that's. At least
But
we
you
can
know-
agree to disagree. That's.
No, but he says like, oh, those dice roll, like those fudging dice takes player agency. Yes. Is taking player agency is bad? Yes. And
Therefore, I do.
I agree.
Question.
Yeah,
you know,
you should do it. You should do it sparingly then. Like, or
that's what's frustrating. You know, you shouldn't stab
Zero.
someone sparingly. You should stop stabbing people randomly. What are you doing, man? Like,
exactly. You know, oh, you should do it as little as possible. Yeah,
Like,
it's
not
that's
at all.
zero.
Good
Yeah,
enough.
it's not at all. It's like, oh, I only smoke crack sometimes, only on the weekends, only socially. It's like, maybe stop, dude. Come on, get like.
Only smoke crack if your dad is president.
Yes, that's right. And
Oh,
you can
God,
get pardoned.
Ah,
Okay.
man.
But he's
Now,
going
now
to go.
my country's the joke.
He's
in
going to
the-
go on and he's going to talk about
podcast,
agency here in the next little bit, and
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
we
let's listen.
we should get there.
Continue running the game in a way that benefits you and your group. But if you've ever thought about it, consider this video as me giving you permission to lie
Oh,
to your
fuck
players.
off.
You're already doing that anyway. D&D is
Who
just
are you?
collaboratively lying
I
to
don't
each
need
other.
your. I don't need
Tes
your
offres
permission for
incroyable.
shit. Économie exclusive.
Yeah, you know you got a French ad too.
Well,
Durée limitée. Hurry. Okay.
we're butchering
So-
Max's poor language.
So
Well, I'm butchering yours all the time.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
that's right. We have free license.
You speak better English than I speak French, though. I'm very rusty.
So like this whole thing, like, oh, this is me giving you permission to do it, right? Just like that's what I said in the beginning, right, with the title. Like,
What?
well,
Who
yeah,
are
you
you
don't
to
get
give me
that.
permission? That implies that you have some power to grant permission over me.
like okay,
that's very arrogant. That's
let me tell you that GM that listened to him and maybe to us in the reply and stuff like that, and we're the internet that's tell you like you shouldn't fudge dice, right?
right.
The only person you should look for permission to fudge dice is from your player.
Right.
If you want to run a game where you're gonna be allowed to fudge dice once in a while, be upfront the session 0 to your player and ask them. You know what? I want to tell a story and I want to fudge dice once in a while if whatever roll doesn't go my way, and see how they're gonna react.
I can just imagine what my players would say if I said that to them.
They would think you've been possessed. They would be like, "What the hell? Like, what? Who is this?
Are
What
you
have you done
okay?
with
You
Crispy?"
feeling okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's but you know that's no.
Hey, Phil.
I don't think you should do it. But if you really want to do it,
Yeah.
talk to your player about it because
to your
they're the
players.
one that are gonna be screwed over. And
Mhm.
when you say what is D&D if it's not like lying to each other, Well,
D&D sounds shit, but I already thought that since 4th edition, so I guess, you know.
I don't know. I prefer high trust games. I play high trust
yeah.
games.
Right.
It's way
and if you're
better.
playing with your friends, you know, which most people are, which is why they stick around for this long. Who else? If you can't trust them, who can you trust? You know, that's
And just
Again,
the
I,
fact
I
that
just reject the premise. He started off with this premise that it's basically gambling. I'm like,
Right.
no,
Yep.
it's not
Because-
really gambling. Well, we're basically just lying to each other. No,
no,
we're
Maybe that's what you're
pretending
doing,
together.
right?
That's different.
even pretending, right?
Right.
Like, I don't agree with the pretend. I don't think like people say like, oh, playing D&D is like playing pretend. That's not what I do when I play D&D, right?
yeah,
Like, I don't pretend to be somebody else. I know I'm not that person, and I'm not trying to fool anybody that I'm that person, right?
Mhm.
I'm just like
right.
experimenting with being somebody else in the sense like I'm getting in my mindset in the mindset of somebody else. I'm changing my pattern of thought, right? I'm trying in the pattern of thought of somebody else that is not me.
Mm.
That's what I'm doing, right? And what we're doing together, we're not lying to each other.
It's not lying.
We're figuring out what's happening together. We're playing a game.
Right, and the session 0 makes sure we're not lying to each other, right? That's where we set our set up our pretenses, right? You know.
And the
Yeah,
doctor's right
exactly.
there.
You-
You really need a
you-
result for GM? Don't roll.
You
And
are
we-
like
we-
the
yeah.
5th person to say that, Doc Flamingo, and that's not
Yeah.
a slight against you. That is a. It's so obvious, right? Like we can all come to that conclusion. So you know, stop reinventing words, Max.
What? Me inventing a word?
That's
Well, what
that's
you
Phil
described
says,
is
yeah.
what I would call pretending to be that person. So when I say pretending, when you're like, I'm not really pretending, I'm putting myself in that person, and I'm
Oh, yeah.
trying to. And
I
I'm
guess
like,
it's
well,
like the
that's
difference between empathy and
sure.
sympathy.
There's perhaps some difference
Yeah.
there between.
Yeah, but we're compare between the three of us. That's semantics compared to Mr. Mystic Arts here, right? Which is like the world beyond.
This is a
And
lying gambling game.
If
It's like
if
liar's
nothing
dice. We're all
else-
playing liar's dice.
right. If nothing else, these
I'm
videos
bluffing.
illustrate so much why we need these models and why we need to say, okay, we gotta stop calling role playing just all one thing. Because holy shit, if that guy calls
Yeah.
that role playing, like
Mhm.
I might as I made the example a while ago that it's like I might as well call my feet a semi truck because it gets me from point A to point B just like a semi truck does, and it's like no, words have meaning. Damn it, we need to we gotta make sure this stuff is curated, separate.
Yeah.
There's that old green text. I don't know where it's the. I'm a mech fan, so it's it's the. I asked the GameStop employee if this is a real mech game or a tanks on legs game. He assures me it's a very good mech game. I buy it. I get it home. It's tanks on legs. It's like it matters, right? It may seem
well-
semantic to the salesman, but to the people who care, different things are different. Hot take of the year: different things are different.
Yeah. So we have that with the bad naming with the Souls like. Not everything that's a bit
Right,
difficult.
good lord,
Souls
yeah.
Like it's like no.
It's like
it means
it's
something.
just a third-person action RPG, man. It's not like it has nothing to do with roguelikes where it's like, dude, this is not turn-based. How is it anything like Rogue?
But anyway, but like but when they call like role playing game and like there's no role play, and you take away the game, you're just telling a story, right? Just like
Yep.
you're missing out on the experience too. Let me finish this dude. We can do it.
Here and there, then I'd like to point out that you can actually fudge anything, not just the dice. You can fudge hit points and modifiers in the middle of a fight. You can give advantage or disadvantage to both the NPCs and the PCs. The entire game runs in your head. Never fudging dice and instead fudging everything else does not make you better than somebody who never fudges the mechanics but does fudge the dice. It's always that question, player agency, and whether taking that away is serving you and your table in a meaningful way. So let me ask.
I think that's an interesting point of the conversation, though, of discussion, though. Is it this fudging a dice roll or fudging the HP? Is that the same thing? Is that equivalent?
I don't think it's equivalent.
Go on.
Well, let me explain. if I have an opponent, if I have an obstacle, let's say it's a monster, and the monster, depending on what the system is, the monster is what I create it to be. That's different than me changing a success to a failure or a failure to a success. Because when we're talking about fudging dice rolls, what we're talking about is changing a failure state to a success state or vice versa. It's not the same as a GM that's designing an obstacle. Oh, well, you changed the hit points on that goblin. I designed an obstacle. Right. The obstacle, yes, you're right. I created it in my head. This was the obstacle. But it's not the same as, oh, well, this is a success, this is a failure. Now I'm going to switch them up because it's more dramatically appropriate.
They are different ways to do the same thing, which is acknowledge a problem, such as, this goblin has way too much health, right? It's just supposed to be a goblin, but it's like you look and you go, it just got stabbed through the chest with a sword, and it's going to take 5 or 6 more of those. Oops, that's not right. That doesn't make sense here, right? So let's chop that health in half. And
oftentimes what we see is people changing on the fly, like what you're talking, like what Crispy was saying, changing a failure state to a success state, right? The player have been fighting a monster, and they kick his ass way too soon, but it's just now he should be dead, but you decide you double his hit point. You give him another round of hit point. Is that how is that not changing a success state into a failure state? Or
that is also changing a success to a failure or a failure to a success. Yeah.
Because I don't really I don't feel to say HP sponge is a system flaw. I don't like those either, right? Just
that's why I like Easy D6. It's just so much. That's so much easier the way that works.
Yep. That's why I like Pathfinder. You just do a shit ton of damage when you're supposed to, you know.
Yeah, because and there's also this thing, right? The in the same sense, going to go your way, right? The player in the big fight, they're getting their ass kicked a bit. They can chip away at the monster, which I fucking hate those fights that you just chip away at HP. But and now you just the monster still got half his hit point, but decided, he's dead suddenly. That was enough. You won, right?
Yeah, it turns out that was exactly enough. Right?
I would agree that this is not very meaningfully different than fudging dice.
It's not super meaningfully different. I think in the specific example of, for example, you notice it early on, so you don't change a specific action from success to fail. You just change the required number of successes or failures to complete something. I think that is meaningful in gameplay terms, but it is still okay, so you or the system fucked up at some point here, right? So there's an elegant way to, one's a slightly more elegant way to fix it.
Yeah. I also one thing, an interesting, when you say when you succeed or fail at some point too, right? That's also a big problem with the player just fighting to the death all the time.
Right.
Yeah. The monster just fighting to death all the time, right? Oh, they're gonna kill the monster too soon. I need to increase his hit point. No.
Just have him run away.
The monster could have run away or surrender or try some different tactic or stuff like that, right? Same thing with the player. They're getting their ass kicked. I know at some point they should realize and say well, maybe it's time to run away,
Right. Or,
and then that leads to more interesting outcome.
Particular example I see a lot in a lot of different games, right? Is, the ranged attacks are so powerful. And I'm like, have you considered the existence of a wall? Have you considered that maybe somebody might run behind a wall at some point, get shot with an arrow once and go, ow, I've just been shot by an arrow. I'm not going to just keep standing here. I'm gonna run behind a wall, right? And that's what happens when you start. When you start role playing. I've been shot by an arrow, and not role playing. That only did 1 point of damage, so I don't care about it, right? No, you've been.
You're just playing the number, right?
Right. Yeah.
No, I can last another 6 rounds like that.
Even if you know that, does your character want to keep getting hit by arrows, right?
But this way of doing things, it's almost like you get into a fight, there's only two outcomes possible.
Right.
One, the PC win, or two,
Hmm.
well, the PC win because you fudge.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
and
That's right. Yeah.
and it's total
point.
annihilation, right? But either
Yeah.
way, it's either a TPK or you totally, and I'm thinking like, even in war games, at least the war games design, they're gonna rout. The army's gonna rout way before you ever get to even 90% of the forces killed, right? It's like,
Yep.
but that would make the combat not last, 4 hours. So,
Yeah. And also, it can derail your story.
yeah,
That
right.
is unreal.
Where are they
can't
running
have that.
to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
But
have that.
like, it's so much more interesting if you have like different outcome. Like some of the PC die, some survive, some of
Sure.
the monster die, some run away,
Yeah.
some people
Some are
like try to
imprisoned.
capture, some
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
some are poisoned, whatever, right? Some are permanently injured.
The
There's all
best.
kind of outcome
yeah.
that could come up if you let the dice
Yep.
fall as they may. Did I get it
Where
right
they
this
may.
time? Where they may.
Yeah.
Where they may.
Good though. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best prison breaks are the impromptu ones. I like playing a good
Yep.
prison break, like where you set out to do it, but I think it's the best ones are where it's like, oh shit, somebody got captured, Why are they... It's always the worst with bandits, too. These guys never play bandit random encounters well. A bandit random encounter, they shouldn't be trying to kill you, They're stuck trying to ransom this guy, and then they go, oh, it's just some no-name, he doesn't have any family, but, people will come looking for his body if he's dead. What are we going to do with this guy? And now they're stuck with a prisoner that...
No, they're just there. If the GM put them there, they're there to be killed.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they walk to the edge of the map and then despawn,
What about reinforcement?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Hey,
The fight-
complications are
uh,
fine.
Yeah,
Complications are fine.
Is that-
Other
is that
obstacles are
fudging?
fine. That's fine.
Yep.
like and for me, like reinforcement, it has to make sense in the world. It has to make
Right.
sense in the
Of
context,
Of
stuff
course.
like that, right? And the player could try to ambush a group to make sure to get them in a place where they can get and then you have to give them that. But sometimes you present the fight to the player and they're running through it too easily. Somebody else can show up from the noise, from nearby and stuff like that, right? You're attacking a camp and there's a little group of guard there. There's probably other guard around, right? Just like not everybody's all together, right? Have them show up.
Mhm.
People, the monster in the next room, right? They can open the door too. I don't know, like RPG all about opening door, but
Yes, they are. It's the hardest thing about it.
but in that is that the same as fudging? I think that's very different than fudging.
Oh, yeah.
It's very different. It's a consequence of
Yeah.
something else. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Timer,
But the
yeah,
result, the
timers are
result
great.
in the end, the fight was going too fast, wasn't challenging enough. You just turn that around, and you can have like a bigger guy, right? Show up.
Sure.
Oh,
It
that's a
may-
big
you know.
boss. He heard you, and he's
Mhm.
showing up right now.
You're making a
Delete.
bunch of, you're making a bunch of noise. Combat is dragging ass.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the guy in the next room has enough time to put on his, plate harness and walk in, and now you've got a guy that you're either going to have a really tough time, dealing any damage to, or you ought to just run away from him.
And I think that's fair, right? If it makes sense in the
Right,
fiction that
right.
you're describing,
No.
for me that's very different than fudging.
Right, exactly.
Some people could argue. Some people could argue that it's meaningfully the same thing, but
Yeah, but again, I think it's it's kind of the same as like adding or subtracting health before the fact, right? It's
Yep.
it shows some foresight, and you're not removing a success or a failure. You're changing if we're just purely talking about game mechanics, you're changing the total number of successes required to achieve a thing.
Mhm.
Rather than saying that didn't happen or it did happen.
yeah, because it's all about at some point what do we do when we roleplay? We try to the big thing that we all should try to do is to preserve the verisimilitude of the world, right?
Yep.
Make the world believable.
You're right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so there's rules to that as well.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and as if Phil makes a good point, add reinforcement when the players are losing also. Yeah, if it makes sense. If
Yeah.
you're force the chase, yeah, that's also great,
Yeah.
And if it makes sense, but it's the difference between, that's a great example, the difference between Hand of God plopping, and the GMPC comes in to save the day this round because you were fucking. No, he had to run from somewhere, or even if, he has teleportation, he had to figure out that you were even in trouble in the first place. And, if it's like already set up that, you have a wizard ally that's got like a scrying orb, maybe the wizard does teleport in and it's like, okay, seriously, I'm working on important shit now. Something's messing up on the other side because I had to come and save your guys' asses. I'm not doing that again, right? Or, something like that. And, make it have consequences when you intervene in favor of the player character staying alive, right?
Yeah.
Because it can be interesting. You can tell an interesting, oh, thank you, Marzaic.
Yeah, thank you, Mosaic. Like that, we do
What
that.
is your
praise.
new profile
Sure.
picture, though?
Yeah.
That's horrifying. But it can be like I compare modern fantasy a lot of times with Superman, because when Superman's written interestingly, the issue is never really about Superman dying. It's about him not being able to save somebody else, right? That can be the consequence, right? You can save your player character at the consequence of something else, sure, like.
And that's the thing too, right? If you respect the dice roll, it's gonna force you to figure out more interesting consequences.
Right,
And
exactly.
more
Yes.
interesting, like the development. Should I play a bit? We probably only have like 3 or more or 4 more ads to go through.
Ask a
Yeah,
more
let's go for the
fundamental
ads.
question. What exactly is player agency? It's the freedom and control to make decisions during gameplay. It transforms the narrative by providing players with meaningful choices that affect the story. It's created when players are given meaningful and informed choices that can be evaluated
See.
on a risk versus reward basis.
Can you pause it there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you
and,
go
Go
back
ahead,
up so we can see his thing? Yeah.
we
Go
can
ahead,
see it.
Crispy.
That was already my plan
Okay, so I've got a few issues with this.
already.
Yeah, I do. Because it's not the GM that gives the players choices.
Yes.
Okay, that's my main
I didn't mean to
contention
say
here.
it. Yep.
It's this framing of agency is really just the GM. It's confined with what the GM will tell the players they can do.
You're talking in the second part here, right?
Yes.
It's
It's- so I
by
create
providing
agency for the-
player.
Yes, when I give them meaningful choices,
Give
but
them
that's not
meaningful
how
choice.
I would define player agency.
No,
Yeah.
agency
get it.
isn't created; it simply exists, and you
Yeah.
can take it away. You can't create it; you can take it away, though, right?
Because like at first reading, but I get your point, Crispy. But at first reading, I wasn't too upset by that, because like freedom and
sentence
control
is
to make decision during gameplay. That's
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 fine. Yeah.
part of it. Transform the narrative by providing player with meaningful choice that affect the story. I don't have a problem with that, because it's the agency that transform the narrative and provide player with meaningful choice. That's not the GM, right? Am I reading? It's correct.
I'm willing to accept that. I'm still, the problem I have with him, decisions during gameplay. He's then going to go on. Nice for you to join us.
Yeah.
Harmony.
Hey, Harmony.
So the problem
Hey.
with this, as I see it, is that he then goes on to say that there's a distinction between setup and gameplay, and I reject that. I reject because he's going to go into that. So again, I'm having a hard time with this definition of agency, because
And
he makes this arbitrary distinction between gameplay. That's when the players have some agency, and setup when they don't have agency.
right.
And I don't agree with that at all. Then this
Yeah.
this other thing with, well, you get meaningful choices that affect the story. Again, we're not playing to create the story. We're playing to have the most faithful verisimilitudes. I don't even know if that's a word. We're trying to be we're trying to remain faithful to the player character itself, right? Like we're trying to role play. The goal is role play. The story is the after. It's the
result.
It's the result,
Yeah.
but it's not the goal. So
Yeah.
I have an issue with this second sentence. So I'm just being real cranky here, but
No, and I think
I have a very big problem with this last thing, which is I have to give the players options so that they can make choices between various options. Don't like it.
Yeah.
So
I
I don't
would
like this
say-
definition.
Yeah. I would say emulationist. You're trying to
Sure.
emulate a character's life.
Yep.
But you know, Yeah, verisimilitudist is a great one too. Yeah, that'll catch on, Crispy. Don't worry. That's
Oh boy.
But you know,
No, there you go.
I think you have a right to be cranky, right? Because it immediately follows him saying, "Oh, I give you permission to fudge dice. I'm giving my players these things."
No.
And it's like, who are you to have these in the first place, right? And you know, when you say again informed choices, it reminds me of an old Lindy Beige video he had like 10 or 12 years ago, and it's titled something like "Just Roll the Dice," which is he laments the player that has to know every rule in the book, every possible option that he
Yep.
could do there. It's like, just do what your damn character would do. Just roll the dice, pick an action. There's a guy charging at you with a spear. You don't have time to think, what if I... No, just do
He
the
was also
thing.
lamenting about the player like needing to know what they need to roll, right?
Right, exactly. You know, and
Yeah.
it's like, just do the thing. I'm glad you've watched that video too. I wish he would do more role playing stuff. I think
I haven't watched it in years.
I know I haven't either, but you know, I think he had some interesting topics. Also,
Yeah.
sorry, Dory is demolishing one of her toys. She dragged a thing in here and is just annihilating it right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
It's good to know that it's the dog. That's
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Dory's the dog,
Yes.
not the fiance. Yeah. So this definition, like I said, like I'm all for like freedom and control to make decisions during gameplay. Like I always say, like role playing games. You know, I often say it's about opening door, but that's not really that. That's just me being tongue in cheek. What it's about is about making choice, right? It's about like making choice in character, and being in the mindset of your character and stuff like that, right? And those choice that you make, like yes, it shouldn't just be like naming the horse, like Tyler was saying.
Exactly. Meaningful choices,
Right,
but
right.
not choices between options as presented by the game master.
Exactly.
It's not
And-
your job
And also,
as a
how,
game master to do that.
and how meaningful are these choices when he just admitted earlier that he was like, "Oh, I came up with the only good option."
Yeah.
Well, exactly, Tyler.
so
because
how-
this is a
you're
guy
right.
that just said to us that he had already, before he rolled the dice, he already had in his mind the most optimal, the one that everyone is going to like the most. I've already come up with that. Well, that seems awfully pretentious for me to say to Max and Tyler here. Yeah, you know what? Before I even roll the dice, I already know what would be the coolest thing here.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to just
Pretend
disregard
roll.
everything
mean,
and
It's
tell you what it is.
It's giving whiskey recommendations when a customer already knows what they want. It's just annoying, right? It's like, I know what I've come to the shop for. Stop being a salesman, right?
Yeah. And player again, when player, yeah, I guess that's the point, right? When players are given meaningful and an informed choice, informed too. So you should, oh, you can pick A, and if you pick A, this is what's gonna happen. Or you can pick B, and if you pick B, this is what's gonna happen.
That's a really good point, Max. What is meant by informed choice? So an
Like it-
informed choice, I already know what the potential consequence. Like, how? What do you mean
Oh,
an informed choice?
I think I've been in games like this where it's, you know, so you could cast lightning bolt on him, but that would hit your ally here, and it's like, shut up, I know, I'm playing the wizard, you're playing everybody else. You get to play everybody else. How come you get to play my
I didn't
character,
ask how big the
GM?
room was. I said I cast fireball.
I'm casting fireball, damn it.
Exactly.
You get to play everyone.
I'm not sure what that
you know?
even means. Like
Yeah.
informed choices. What do you mean informed
Like-
choices?
Yeah.
In life, we have to make choice, right? Like
Right.
some people don't. Some people
Yeah, I
just
suppose.
drift through life, like most people, I guess. But if you want to be an agent in life, like a full moral agent, and live your own life,
Right.
you get to make choice, and those choices gonna affect your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not always well informed, right? Sometimes you
No.
don't always know the risk reward, right? You can have an
Right.
idea, you don't really know the risk, but
And-
you have to make the choice.
Yeah, and on the other end of things, is it like implying that, you know, it would be frustrating if I knew the rules, and he's going like, well, you know, that will do X, Y, and Z. Yes, I know that will do that. I'm telling you what I'm doing. And it's also on the other side frustrating if you've got players that have been playing for 2-3 years
Yep.
that don't know how the fucking mechanics work. Because you see that all the time here too, and it's so frustrating. Yeah.
One thing you also see all the time is like when the players start asking a ton of questions to the GM because they want to make the optimal fucking choice.
Yes,
Right?
I
Are they in the
hate
room?
that.
Are those guys together or are they apart? Do they touch? Are they holding hands? right? Just like all
Could I
those,
like if I line it up right? Could I like get everybody with the lightning bolt, or like Oh, you could, but then you're gonna hit the ally, or you could just lightning bolt this
like,
one guy, and
you
then
see that, you want to fucking tell those players, like, there's a fight going on, right?
Yes.
There's
Yes.
something, things are moving.
while you're doing
like,
You know
mental,
someone's trying to kill you right now.
while you're
Yeah,
doing
there's no
mental
pause
geometry, the
You
guy
can put the tape measure away.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill you.
right,
I just hate that out of character stuff. To me, it just sounds all out of character. I don't like
Yeah.
it.
No, and it's just that's when you do while you're doing mental geometry, looking up your left hand rule, the guy's running at you and stabbing you, right? And then, you skip.
Phil
that.
say like you experience that a lot with GMs when you're making plans that don't fit the plan. They keep saying, "Well, remember that," or you
Yeah.
probably they want to steer you out, like, "Oh, you probably don't want to do that because
Yeah.
that's like, oh, I'm gonna give you choice, but you better make the choice that I chose for you already."
Right.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Leading
That's right.
leading question. You're leading the witness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time for another ad. Let's.
Yes.
Are we okay?
It can be evaluated
Is that what
on a
those are?
risk versus reward basis. But notice
Those
how
are
that
Flash?
definition started. It is the freedom and control to make decisions during gameplay. Even the most open-ended games you've ever played can be divided into sections that are gameplay, and sections that just aren't. Sections that are
Wait,
story,
I hate
or
this.
more
What?
accurately, setup. In Crusader Kings, you've got endless options for what to do next.
No. We're not talking about Crusader Kings. What?
Let me read that huge super chat. Thank you.
I know. Hey,
Lord.
look at this. Very generous.
Choice aren't meaningful in form in relation to the GM story. They are only meaningful in form in relation to the character. Yeah.
What an excellent way to put that.
Yeah.
And you
Choose what your character would do 100%. Not what's outside observer
Yeah,
would choose.
100%.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Amen.
Nail on
Thank
the
you.
head.
That is right.
Yeah.
That's the right way. I hate this that he's going into right now, by the way, because he's going to try to say that you only, as a player, should have choices during gameplay, but not during setup.
Oh, like feel
And
like
then
he's
yeah,
doing the comparison thing. There's gameplay and the story. It's like,
what? So
Why
I
are
hate
they-
this. I hate this. This is, to me, is like trying to train players like
Right.
Pavlovian dogs.
Right.
When I give you the moment,
Yep.
now you get to play. But
Yeah.
gonna ring when you hear the bell.
when
make
you
a
ring the
choice.
bell,
And I snap my fingers.
guess what? Agency is
Story.
now. But
Yep.
if you don't hear the bell,
Bingo.
you just need to shut your mouth because I'm going to do all the setup and it's
It's-
going to be great. It's going to be so good
you
for
know-
the story. Guys, you're going to love this story that I've made for you.
I remember even when I started, I couldn't remember, couldn't tell you where I read or watched it, but I remember when I was in high school running games, we were even, lamenting that video games were bringing the ideas of cutscenes into tabletop RPGs. It's
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
just run it as one fluid thing. Why,
Yeah.
cutscenes are annoying even in video games when it's like very sudden and jarring and it's like, oh, I'm not
can't.
in gaming mode. I'd somewhat blame video
I hate
games.
when
that-
I hate when I sit down to play a game and
Yeah.
I'm being served a movie, right? That's what I say. Right? Like, I'm
And
here
you
to
go,
play a
you
game, I don't
watch
have much
people play
time.
God of War
Yeah.
Ragnarok and they don't press a button for 30 minutes. Yeah, and it's,
Yeah. And then they get one button to press.
yeah, you press X to
And then
advance
press
cutscene.
X
Ah,
for advanced
good.
cutscene.
Quick
Yeah.
time. Yes.
Like
Okay,
that's the
Let's
thing.
see what he
like,
says with this, but
Yeah.
like I'm sure we will, but it's in my mind, it's just so awful. It's
No,
just
yeah.
awful.
Oh yeah, man.
Like,
Like
It-
stop trying to, like I
It's a
used to work in
false
the video game
dichotomy,
industry,
right?
right? And people used to say like, oh, like video game now are bigger than movie, and I say like, well,
Yeah.
I don't think it's true because like all those fucking AAA games
right,
are movies.
they are
now.
just movies, right? And
They are just
what
fucking movies.
my thing would be to this, right? Like he's making a statement, and when you make a statement, you have to quantify that, right? He's making the hard and fast statement. Video, you have the story section, you have the gameplay section.
And
Why?
you have the setup. What is the setup? Is he gonna
What-
explain? I forgot.
Let's find out, I guess.
Let's find out.
Next, but the game still spawns random events for you to deal with. In Tetris, you don't control what bricks come up next. You can only arrange the blocks.
I am the man who arranges the blocks.
There is always setup. That's what makes it a game, and not just an empty sandbox where there are no goals, no challenges, no meaningful choices.
What this guy is like the king of false equivalence. okay.
False equivalence, false dichotomy.
So
like,
you're telling me that it's not a game if unless we have something that has already limited your like I reject the premise here that you have to impose on your players what their motivations need to be.
is the most flattering comparison you could make to your own tabletop games Tetris?
Yes, exactly. Because they're
That's
both
pretty
game,
much
right?
like
It's a game.
like
It's a game.
Yeah,
like that's
sure.
like I made the comparison. Like I've literally made this comparison before I ever saw this video, where it's like you find out pretty quick that tic-tac-toe is not a very good game after you've played 5 games of it. Right?
It's a solved
Like,
game.
right. That is
Tetris is good though.
we should Tetris is awesome, but we shouldn't really be umming and ahhing over what is and isn't a game when okay, congratulations, you ticked all the boxes of being a game, but it's tic-tac-toe. That's what
So solved.
great, you know, you
It's a
yes,
role-playing
Phil.
game, guy. Like
It's
saying
a
like,
game.
oh, in Tetris, oh yeah, in Tetris you don't get to you don't choose which, like I guess that's the equivalency you make, right? In Tetris you don't get to choose the block that come next, but you can choose where to place it, right?
Yeah, but
That's him saying like, well, you don't choose what fight you're gonna get into, and we're gonna fight, but you can choose what you do in the fight, right? Like,
sure, but can you when you
It's still
when
too
you can't
limiting
even
for me.
die?
yeah,
Right,
no, of course.
but also, you know, it's what is it that I'm trying to say here? It's frustrating. Excuse me.
Don't die.
Yeah,
know
I
it's-
know.
I know it's
I'm
frustrating, but don't die.
yeah. It's frustrating that he's framing it in such a way because this is a two-way medium. Right? The difference between Tetris and Crusader Kings and all these video games is that they are one-way mediums. If you don't know that distinction in writing and in media study in general, that is to say, I've created the thing, now it's out of my hands and you can only interact with the thing. When we're game mastering, it's a two-way medium. We're going back and forth, and I can change it as it's coming out here, right? I can make modifications to it. I can say, well, it doesn't make any sense for a square block. This is a terrible because there is no, like, premise. There's no... you couldn't roleplay Tetris. It's a terrible example. But, you know, I could say, well, it doesn't make sense for a bandit to just spawn out of nowhere. So instead of it going, well, the code's out of my hands, that's just what happens, I can go, well, the bandit doesn't spawn, right? You know, I can use GM Fiat for good. I don't have to use it for evil. I don't have to use it to just, you know, tell my story. I can use it to make sense. I can use it to apply logic to the world we've created together, as he consistently reminds us.
Crispy.
It's just we're usually sold on this hobby that the only limitation is your imagination, right? But then
Yep.
when you listen to these kind of arguments, that gets thrown out so quickly. You only get to okay. So to give the guy, to try to be fair to him, as in some other games like Tetris, there are obstacles or premises that are the launching point for a game session. But from there, where it goes should be, like Tyler was saying, that becomes a reaction and a dialogue that happens organically in the moment. And you're not fudging your dice, okay? Because as soon as you fudge your dice, then you've taken away all of the magic that happens, all of that. Hey, yeah, you know what? Really, this is incredible. I'm really getting into this. I'm into this flow state now. I really can feel like I am this character at the moment, and I'm envisioning it, and I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. And I don't have invisible walls set up by somebody who's going to just take away my agency as playing this character to say that I've already decided what the most dramatic thing can possibly happen is, and I'm going to just tell it to you like some lame ass cutscene.
Excellent. That is an excellent reminder, Crispy, because even taking at face value, when in Tetris does 1% of the time the straight piece that you perfectly lined up just randomly go over here? Because somebody thought that would make, you know, for good tournament viewing or whatever. It never happens, right?
Imagine
So-
like the block you're working to build a Tetris,
Yeah.
but a block come down that could give you a triple, and like
Yeah.
now the GM like just fucking take control and put it for the triple.
Yeah, and just
that's
slams
that's
it over.
yeah, no, I'm
Right.
like I want to fucking take the risk to build a fucking Tetris.
Right. You know. But you couldn't have thought of that, Max. He's already thought of the best, Tetris layouts. So
Yeah.
just let him.
No,
do
that's
it.
all set up. You don't get to play there. Like
Right.
you only get to play in this tiny little box that I've designed for you, where I already have the optimal outcome envisioned.
And you know,
Is
you
that
know also
even
one thing in the,
Are you even playing a game then?
Right.
Like
you know
You're
also
going
one thing
to,
in Tetris that happened? Time don't pause,
Right.
and
yeah, there you
I don't
go.
have the information. I don't have the information of the next piece, the next piece that's gonna come up. So I cannot make it. Like I have to make a choice that is uninformed.
Mhm. Or lightly
Right.
informed. You might, in
Or-
some of them, like the next 2 pieces or something, right? But it's still, you don't know the next 15 things that are going to happen. You don't, right? There's, yeah. Tetris RPG.
Just RPG.
Figure it out. Figure out how many steps removed Tetris is from being role
Wish I could have-
playable.
Yeah, you could always watch on the replay. Like,
very
listen, like, I
excellent.
guess like, a lot of people are gonna be on Christmas party tonight. I guess that's the thing, right?
I know.
I didn't think
Awesome.
about that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All
But
right, let's-
like, and the
we
thing
gotta
that
get
also
to
like, they
this.
say like, if you sorry,
Oh no, go ahead, Max. You had a comment.
you say like, oh, and if you don't have like the setup and story, you're gonna have like empty sandboxes. I say like that's
Why is that a
nobody-
bad thing? Yeah.
Well, but also nobody brought toys to the same box. Why'd your players show up with
Yeah.
nothing, right?
like,
This is
like
Totally
your,
empty?
your player have characters that have objective, that have goal, that have desire, that have wants, right? All this fucking like synonym that I'm showing
Well,
at it. Right.
exactly, Max. And he's the one said earlier in this video, he said he ran 40 sessions one-on-one with the players to get their characters kind of introduced into the world. You're telling me those characters,
Yeah.
they don't have, after 40 sessions, they don't have their own motivations and goals, and they don't have something that they're driving towards? What are they doing then?
Lord
Are
Dumb.
those even believable characters?
I guess like it's probably like just beating Lord Dumb to death.
Just
And
a
then, like
lord dump?
it's so much,
Right.
it's so much that like they disengage because like I don't fucking remember all that shit. Just tell
Yeah.
me when I have a
Right.
choice to make.
Yeah.
Because it's your world. I don't want to fuck up with it. Right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of that. Like it always go back to fucking GM control. GM, let go of that fucking control. It's okay. Let the player roleplay the character. Let the player make bad decision. Let the dice fall where they may. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get that one right.
We got
And
it.
just to clarify, like what Max is saying, when a player character makes a bad decision, what we're saying is it's not really the less optimal decision. That's not what we're talking about here. A bad decision, it's either a decision that's made in character or it's a decision made out of character. And any decision made in character that is faithful to that character is the right decision at the time. It doesn't matter if it was I ran away in panic. I wet my pants and ran away. Okay, was that the wrong decision? Well, if you were trying to win the war game, probably. But if
Yeah.
you were playing the character that just saw a great old one for the first time and has lost his sanity, that was the right decision. It's the wrong decision is when you're out of character and you're no longer playing that character. Instead, you're playing something else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But like, yeah, like
That's it.
having proactive player, right? It's like roleplay so everything. Having proactive player, like stop trying to fucking like don't make your player your audience. Stop trying to tell them a story. The player, like you're not the author telling a story to the player. The player are as much the author as you are.
Yeah.
They control the protagonist. That's a big fucking part of the story.
Yes.
Meaning comes from the setup. If you have no setup and it's all agency all the time, you have failed in your quest for pure player agency because
Whoa,
the choices
whoa,
aren't meaningful.
But who's talking
Wrong.
about no setup?
What did you say
Wrong.
about what does it mean? What does it mean by setup? Is it
Right.
does it mean like the premise?
Right.
So
like,
keep going. He's going to have to give us more because
Right, because
Yeah, I'll keep going. in a
so
bit.
far, no is the answer.
Informed. They're arbitrary. Making arbitrary choices is the opposite of player agency. It's just guessing. So if you're engaged in setup and not gameplay, you can, and I think should, remove some choices to deliver the premise to your players, and you can remove choices without railroading players. Railroading.
But choosing to gamble is a choice. That's agency. Choosing to make an uninformed decision is itself a choice. It's the Rush song. What is it? Free will. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Yeah. That's.
And like sometimes like you gotta have like those character like those NPC giving you like lore dumb about the stuff, and your character is a guy that's like rash and just say like enough talk.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like I don't need to have like your explanation for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But like, what does it mean by setup? What is the setup? Is
I
it
don't
like
know. Let's see. This chapter goes for a little bit, so let's see what he says.
you think he's gonna explain it? I
hope
think
so.
he does.
Is when the game heads to a predetermined outcome, no matter what the players choose to do. But as long as what you're doing is set up
Wait.
for the game, that's the railroading
Wait.
players. Railroading deliver the premise to your players, and you can remove choices without railroading players. Railroading is when the game heads to a predetermined outcome, no matter what the players choose to do. But as long as what you're doing is set up for the game that's to come, and the game itself has meaningful and informed choices, you can remove a bit of choice to make something interesting happen. We are stripped of choices all the time in real life and in games. We do not control the weather or how others perceive us or what time it is or what we think likes about us or when violent.
This is a deep misunderstanding of how free will and agency functions. This is kind of like scary on a philosophical level, not even a role playing level anymore. This is so. He is almost suggesting here, and I hope this isn't what he actually believes, that because we do not choose the weather, it is not agency to choose to put on a coat and go outside. Like, you do realize that is I could still make the choice, though it is below freezing outside, to strip naked and run outside. The weather has no bearing on that.
Like it's insane because say like, oh, you don't control the weather. Yeah, but like I control my own action, and I'm not saying like that I should control everything in the world when I'm role playing.
Right.
I said I should control my character.
Right.
Yes. We're talking about player character agency. Like we're not talking about. I don't know.
Like making the comparison with the weather, or like or somebody else. That's fucking insane. Obviously that's what we talk about when we talk about agency.
Right.
Like saying like, oh, you don't have agency in real life because you cannot control the weather.
Huh?
What?
But also, I mean, let's take that a step further, though. What about, the druid that can control the weather? What does he do about that? What does he do about all of the spells in a game that allow your player to do things that you shouldn't be able to do in real life, that allow you to do supernatural things? Is he the reason that Wish has its dog-ass new description? Yes, is the answer. People like him are the reason that we can't have cool things in D&D anymore.
He said that a railroad, as defined, is when the outcome was already predetermined. Yeah. His entire video is that if you don't get the dramatic result, fudge the dice. So who decides in that moment that it's a dramatic result? It's not your players. That can't be the case.
No, it's a story we made together, though. He said it. So
it's a story they made together, but it's not really a story you made together because all the players are doing is rolling dice, and guess what? The dice don't matter. Because it's just going to be at the end that he decides what the best dramatic outcome is. I don't
like. He
how are you not running a railroad?
He could have made a good example there, which is why this is like, what the hell? Yeah, exactly. Which
is right there. Like player deserve to face the fairly rolled consequence of their decision. Exactly. Yes. They make the choice, and you roll fairly, and then you get what happened. But I still don't get what you mean by setup. Is setup the prep? Is setup the premise? Is setup like when you say like, oh, we're gonna play a game, it's gonna be a medieval fantasy game?
Is it the session 0? Was
in
Forgotten Realms? It doesn't sound like it to me, Max. It sounds more confining than that. Like it's
that's what I found. Like I don't get what you mean. Like is it like because he made the difference between setup and story as well. Like he said, like the 3 element: gameplay, story, and setup.
You know what's sorry to interrupt, but you know what's odd and frustrating about this video? A million things. But specifically, when he's talking about role-playing games, he gives 0 specific examples. When he's comparing role-playing games to things that are not role-playing games, he gives specific and bizarre examples.
Yeah.
What are we meant to glean from that, right?
It's so I'm so confused at that moment, right? Like,
Maybe I'm not drunk enough to get it yet. I don't know.
Phil's got a good comment here in that you can't claim that because gravity exists in the fictional world as we've decided it, then you're using that to limit character agency. No. That's it. I think that at the same time that seems like a too broad of a well, you're restricting agency already because you're not letting all of your player characters fly everywhere like they're Neo in the Matrix. Like why can't they do that? You've restricted their agency.
Right.
No, we've all decided that the believability of the world revolves around these axioms.
Right.
That's not limiting their agency.
No. They could still attempt to fly.
Within that framework, they can do anything they choose, and I'm not role-playing their characters, they are.
When you want to think about agency, think about the crackhead at the 7-Eleven. He believes he could do things that reality will not allow him to do. That's true agency.
and he can act upon those beliefs.
Right. He can act upon those.
And then you got to deal with the consequence of
And
those
then he-
actions.
No,
Then
God
the consequences happen.
God does not step down and go, no, you can't do that, and then he doesn't do it. No, he does it, and the world reacts. The world reacts to his agency, right? You know.
Yeah.
Let's see
That's
how
all
he
you
ends
can
up. If he
control.
can redeem himself, I don't know. It's
Because but I want to say like I thought before I go play like because I'm trying to understand this point because I want to be like
Right.
unfair, right?
You know, yeah. But,
The gameplay, okay, from what I understand from what he said, the gameplay seems to be like combat and when you roll dice, but then again
It's
you don't
Tetris.
have to stick to the dice roll. Oh, but he's gonna do it 99% of the time, but not always. But you know,
where I'm counting on one hand, but I need
99% wink wink.
I'm counting on one hand, but I need one finger because we've got gameplay, and then no, we take away the gameplay,
Yeah.
and then we've got story. Well, no, we take
So,
away
and
player
it's
collaboration.
like
and there's
story for me, like like for me, story and gameplay are kind of intertwined because, like I often say, coming up with the story, right? The story is the result of gameplay. The story is the after effect, is the result,
Right.
right? It's like
Yeah.
you know,
And, you know, we mentioned Hand of God, but the you know, as people are in the comments, Laudong and St. James, but you know, the that would even be better if these GMs would even like role play as godlike figures in the world, but they don't do that. That's why fudging the dice is worse than that, because you're not even acting as some force in the world. You're just using pure GM fiat, you know.
yeah.
That would be cheesy.
We're so
I don't
close.
think that would be great role playing, but it, you know,
All right, let's finish the video before
We're less than a minute away. We got to get
Maybe-
through it.
maybe for once we can finish the video.
Yeah, let's
we
do
can,
it.
We can
We
keep
can
on
do it.
talking after.
Valence
Final
breaks out.
thoughts.
We don't get choices then. We choose our reactions. Every campaign, adventure,
That's
session,
backwards.
and encounter
Wait.
needs setup. Without it, there
I
can
need
be
to go back on
no
that.
ever or,
Yeah,
when-
that's-
or how others perceive us, or what time it is, or what the girl we think likes about us, or when violence breaks out. We don't get choices then. We choose our reactions. Every campaign,
We don't get choices. We choose our reaction.
so we don't get choices. We
I
choose.
feel like there's
You
some
should
there's
stop there.
maybe a language breakdown there or
Maybe
something.
like
Is it me?
no,
No, it's-
like we don't get choices. Okay, direct object. We choose. This is
Yeah, that-
logically broken. You,
Yeah,
the-
that doesn't make sense.
You-
Let's
it-
keep
Stuff
going.
happen. You react to it. Right?
Right.
You know,
You choose.
you got
We d-
choice.
Yeah.
Other people got choice, and there's something that's nobody's choice, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
But we all understand that when we talk about agency, it's about like
And-
your own choice.
and
You have
these-
to make your own choice.
And think about why violence breaks out. Think about why violence breaks out. It's
Yeah.
because people have
Somebody else made a
independently
choice.
used their agency to come
Yeah.
to different conclusions, to come to clashing actions, right? Violence doesn't break out because you know, I mean, it might. Maybe some people are schizophrenic and, they believe that God told them, I have to go fight that guy. So that's what they're doing, right? But, like, by and large, it doesn't just spawn two violent guys in a bar and you're like, oh my God, a fight's happening. Why? I can't figure. Like, there's usually a setup. There's usually choices that are made that lead to the violence, right?
Let's finish.
Adventure,
Okay.
session, and encounter need setup. Without it, there can be no meaningful and informed choice. So you have to engage in setup repeatedly. If you never stop setting up to get out of the way and invite your players to play a game, then you're being a bad DM. Setting up, like everything else you do as a DM, is done in service to your players.
What
and
is
that's where we'll
fucking
pick it
up?
up next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. Me and
This goes back around to the DM is not an entertainer. Don't put on your clown makeup, please.
Oh, come on.
Wow, that was
You
bad.
say, like, you need set, like, campaign, session, encounter. They all need setup. If you don't set up, like, what is fucking setup? What is
Was
it?
that the worst one yet?
Does it mean prep? Is
I
setup
think you mean-
prep?
Well, is it prep or is it he's talking about? He keeps there's some. I still am stuck on this informed choice thing.
I've got it. The setup is the number of drinks you need to sit through one of these games. That's the only conclusion I can come to.
I just
at this
don't.
point.
Well, anyway, my takeaway from this, final thoughts for me on this: don't
Yeah.
fudge your dice rolls.
No.
You
It's-
shouldn't have to fudge your dice rolls. It's a disservice to your players. It also invites you as the game master to get into bad habits, such as I already know what the best possible outcome is, and I'm going to get that come hell or high water. And that's a terrible way to run games.
Right.
This is why people burn out, because they're constantly,
Yeah.
well, I'm doing this in service of my players. I like the people I play with. I consider them my friends. I enjoy spending time with them, but I don't consider them my audience.
Right.
No.
Right.
No. They're co-creator.
Right.
I consider them as equals when we sit down and play.
Yeah.
We have different scope, but we're all players. We're all playing the same game.
What feels
This
like
is
set
the
up your adventure
mentality.
plan.
This guy, through his whole video and his other content, is generally of the opinion that, like, well, this is for game masters, because game masters are there as entertainers, and you've got to really do this, and you're doing everything
Exactly.
in service of. Well, I don't want to create a game where I'm the one that has to do all the heavy lifting, and everyone else is just passive and listening to my story at my knee.
Just
That's a terrible way of framing this. So those are my thoughts. Don't fudge your dice. It's stupid.
right.
It's not necessary. It does way more harm than good.
Yep.
In fact, this guy's advice isn't very good. He's got great editing, and kudos on him and his girlfriend for figuring out the YouTube algorithm thing and getting all the subscribers and all that nonsense. It is bad advice, people.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
No matter what kind of game you're playing, too. That's the thing. If you are playing Tetris, for that matter, you don't want even 1% of the time for the pieces to not do. What's the most frustrating thing you've had happen to you in a video game, a single player game at that? And I bet it's when you press the button, damn it, the controls are
Doesn't
just
do it,
not
yeah.
doing what I'm telling them to do, you know? I want control of my character. Even if I'm not playing a role-playing game, I
When a
don't
game,
want
when you feel like a game is cheating on you, right?
Right, exactly. And you know, some people will say like it's if you can keep the illusion and not, ever reveal to your players that you're fudging the dice, well then now what are you doing? You're lying to your friends? You shouldn't do that either, right?
Yeah.
And barring to that, the video editing might be good, but the constructive script writing editing that's quite frank, and I'm gonna be harsh because it's a living for me. It's kind of garbage because at the end we don't come back around to why we should fudge dice. We've gone off on a total tangent here to this is why video game, your game has to have a setup and and we don't really fully explore there's no specific examples. What I would like for even a high school writing level is every time you make an assertion, give me 2 concrete examples that support your assertion. And he doesn't do that. He talks in vagaries. He doesn't, say, here's a specific example from one of my games where X, Y, and Z happened. No, that.
We might have to do this one at some point.
Oh God, absolutely.
Watch get player to roleplay by rendering scene.
So
Would-
like if we were talking, I
You
would
have to render scene.
like there.
Why I never? Oh man, like yeah, I need to look.
There's
at
so many times I just wanted to say,
Right.
what do you mean by that? Elaborate. Continue. Like these are editing remarks I would make in in a sidebar if I was editing this as I've edited videos before as far as like content and just gone pause 7:13. What did you mean? This is unclear to the audience. What did you mean by this? And that was all I could see here. I could see in the red pin, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that your final thought on that topic? I'm gonna do mine after, and then we're gonna wrap it up. It's almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just yeah, I think so. I think like man, I could probably find other things to say about it here, but I mean, wow, I thought we had beat a dead horse, but it turns out this video isn't even really about fudging dice. It's about
so much more than that, eh?
right, and I mean it's kind of truly disturbing at the end there about part of why I guess a closing thought for me is part of talking about why roleplay matters is that through roleplay, at the end of this video, we eventually came to at least I came to a kind of scary conclusion, which is I don't know if this guy believes free will exists. Like that, and people, because people say like, oh, it's just a game. Why does it matter? And I'm
Do
like,
you have free will if you gotta decide the weather?
right? Yeah, exactly. That I'm like, why does it matter? Is
Exactly.
because as it turns out, you can tell a lot about the way somebody thinks and somebody's philosophies are by whether or not they are willing to let their friends, let alone any other people, but their friends, they aren't even letting their friends make uninformed decisions on their own. They aren't even letting them take on their own risk. That kind of goes beyond role playing.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Like this video was like not even that much about fudging dice because
Right.
like there was the rut is so much deeper, right? Fudging dice is just a symptom of the
Right.
problem. Like you
Yeah,
want to tell a
Phil.
story.
Yeah, exactly what Phil says there. Yeah, it's weird how
Yeah.
it was kind of starting at the symptom of a deeper issue and then expanding.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he never once tackles the thing that everybody in the comments pointed out, which is your system sucks. This is a problem of your systems. Everybody pointed that out, but nobody in favor of fudging dice I have ever heard come to the conclusion. Maybe I should switch systems like that.
Yeah.
But it seems so obvious to me, right?
Law Dog's being very generous again, like 20.
He is. Yeah, that's very nice of you,
Don't
sir.
fudge dice, just as player must accept that their character may die due to their decision and then make new character. The GM must also accept that his story may die to PC decision and he has to roll with it.
Amen.
100%.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Amen.
Very,
Absolutely.
very well said and very, very thank you very much for
Yes.
this generous contribution.
Law Dog, comments like yours are part of why we do it. You are the light shining in the darkness of the slop comments of great video.
You had good comments in this video,
my final thought on that, right? It's like, yeah, I said like you shouldn't fudge dice, and don't let somebody that's not at your table tell you that you can, right? Just like, but the most important thing is like you have to understand like you're not there to tell a story. You're not there like you're there to play a game with your friends, right? And as a GM, you're a player as well. And part of playing the game is coming up with stuff, reacting to what's happened. We roll the dice for the uncertainty. We roll the dice because we don't know what's gonna happen, and we're there together to figure it out.
That's right.
If you don't do that, you're not playing a game. And if you're just there to tell a story, you're not role playing. If you're just like if you're just trying to hype up the player, but with dice roll and stuff like that, you're no longer role playing. So if you want to play a role playing game, try to role play, and try to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
And role play it's not a dichotomy. Role play is the game.
That's right.
Exactly.
And
right.
like those choice making and those like this uncertainty, that's game element.
Mhm.
When you remove that, you're stepping away from the game. You know, you're just like telling a story, and that's just
Exactly.
weird. That's just a weird thing to do. Invite your friend over, tell them a story, and pretend that they have some control over it
Mhm.
and that they're part of it. That's just
Right.
weird.
Yes, it is
Right.
weird.
So I guess on that, I guess it's gonna wrap it up, right? That's sound like a conclusion.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you very much, Crispy
Yeah.
and Tyler, for joining me.
Thank you
And
for
thank you
having
for
me.
everybody that joined live in chat, especially if I got for Super Chatter. My ear
Yeah.
trumpet has been struck by lightning and Law Dog. Very generous of you. And for everybody that was there in chat sharing their thoughts and stuff like that, you don't need to. You know, I'm a very small channel. I try to keep an eye on chat, and I try to interact when I see the good comment. So you don't need to super chat, but obviously, you know.
God. Phil.
And thank you also everybody that's gonna watch on the replay. And Merry Christmas, because I'm
Yeah.
probably not gonna be live again until the beginning of Christmas. So I hope you all have a good one. And I'll see you during Christmas at some point, because you remember, Christmas lasts until the 6th of January. Until the
That's
Epiphany.
right.
Yeah, it's 12 day.
It's 12 days.
So
Yeah,
I'll
that is
probably
right.
see you at some point during Christmas. And have a good night, guys.
Yeah.
I'm ending the stream now. No outro. Bye.
Yep. See you guys.
No, I don't want an outro video today. How do I reveal it? Oh, there you go. There.